wanna train the very best. There's no better team. I will battle every day. It's always been our dream. Pokemon!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to D-Pad. I'm Rick. This is Pokemon the Very Best. We're grinding our Rattata STRATS to level 100, and we're having a very normal time about it. Nothing weird, no frustrating glitches or bugs or anything like that on my end. Everything is super normal. As a quick explanation, a week and a half ago, I unplugged my entire recording setup and brought it with me into Boston for PAX East, specifically for the Madness Mansion series of videos that are starting to come out. I haven't edited any of mine yet. I might be the last one to put mine up, but we recorded among a cluster of us 13 videos over the course of about 3 days, a little under 3 days. Big long ones too. They're all like multi-hour things. And it was a great time. It was good to see everybody. It was great to hang out, meet some folks in person for the first time, and we did some good stuff. We got some live action stuff in there too. I don't think any of the live action stuff's making it into any of my videos, but it was there. And it was a really good time. And then I carted all of my stuff back, an hour west, and now all of my stuff was in a big pile. And then I brought a bunch of it upstairs for the 15th anniversary marathon stream this past weekend, which was a lot. It was great. It was a good time getting to, do a big anniversary stream with folks, and very similar to the 10th anniversary back in 2021. We really tried to get more folks for it than usual. We tried to, get some bigger, more bombastic kind of things in there, and that too was a really good time. And then yesterday, CJ and Felice stayed over into Sunday, and we wound up recording a bunch of stuff, and we stopped recording around 10:30 at night, gave both of them a ride to the train station, got home, and then just kind of face-planted the bed, and now it's today. So, there's still a lot of stuff that's not set up yet. The camera's not set up again yet. I literally only have one microphone plugged in. Right before I came on, I replugged in the audio interface. I'm still kind of sorting through wires and cables and things, so it's still kind of a minimalist setup. We're going to see if I have everything ready for Wednesday. I have to have everything ready for Thursday because we're doing our 99-turn Mario Party Madness. But that is a big part of the reason why it's a Cacnea stream tonight, because I just did not have the ability to get everything kind of sorted in time. Hopefully Wednesday we'll be back to normal on streams. We'll have a stream Wednesday for Metroid Prime 3. We'll have a stream Thursday for Mario Party. And then I'm going to be off for a week. And then I'll be back on the 20th for more streaming and things. So it should be a good time. But let's get the show on the road. And as is now the norm for this, we're going to spin to see what our poll is going to be for tonight. We have gens 1 through 10. I think the last time we did this, we didn't have info on winds and waves yet. Now we do, so those can be included in there. And you'll notice that I have a section for Gen 5A and 5B, because we're going to be playing both Black or White and Black 2 or White 2. So I'm including both of those there, so that way people, can decide accordingly. But we're going to spin for which game we're gonna decide something on, and then we're gonna have a separate wheel for deciding what we're deciding for that game. So first of all, let's see what we got here. Which gen are we doing stuff for tonight? Are we really gonna land on one of the Gen 5s? That's kind of amazing. Oh, that's so close. No, wow. That really is truly right on the line. That's crazy close. All right, so we're talking Gen 6, so we're talking X and Y. So let's see now. We have our main sets of stuff. There may be other things we add to this later, but these are kind of the main three. The main three things we have to decide are going to be which version we're going to play. In this case, literally only X or Y, so it's going to be a binary choice if that's the case. We got starters, so that'll be our set of three there, which I think X and Y is what? That's Fennekin, Chespin, and Froakie? And The other one there is nicknames, which will be what nicknaming scheme am I going to use? When we did X and Y, I did foods back in the day, but we got, any number of options for this. So let's see what we're going to be discussing tonight on the poll. Ooh, looks like it might be version. We going head-to-head on this one? It looks like we're doing version. All right. Well, there we go. Okay. Well, I'll click that to make the confetti go away, because I think that was actually causing us video problems last time. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Whoop. Okie dokie. Only update our stuff here, and then we'll be in. Let's see. Just barely fits in the space allotted for it. And let me get my thing over here. So we've only got the 2 options tonight. There we go. All right. So the way that for what it's worth, the way that we've done this. Oh, nice. Okay, yes, that is yours. I'm just looking at how it's showing that on here, and I'm like, I can't tell. So that was what was that? Did you use 10,000 D points? I'm trying to say it's displaying this in such a strange way. Because it's 100 votes. I guess, you know what, we'll stick with the votes, because I think that's how that wound up working. It was 100 points for a vote. So 100 votes for X. All right, we have a few seconds until our timer catches up with where we are starting from. We're starting at 5:25:28, and then we'll be in. 10,000 D points for 100 votes. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. It was like the way that it's got it on here. It says redeemed 100 votes in a TG poll for. Oh, I keep fucking forgetting to fix that. I gotta fix that after this. GT is supposed to be GT for Generational Trauma, which is the series that this is all a bunch of questions for. But yeah, okay, cool. But it's nice to be back. We had a lot of stuff keep coming up that prevented us from doing one of these sooner. I think we had to miss 3 of these that were meant to happen. So, all right, without further ado. Oh, I don't have it focused. There we go. Oop. Oh my God, I was dragging the window. Okay. Now we're good. All right, so we're back to Route 1 once again. My vague goal for tonight is to try to get to level 30. We'll see how we do on that. It's a little ambitious. I don't think it's likely to happen. I think we can get to 29. I don't think 30 is probably going to happen, but 30 could be nice. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And it's funny because we're quickly. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Odds on that one. We're reaching the point where the number of levels we can get in an individual stream is starting to already drop. Because the first stream, which was like an hour and a half, we got from level 3 to 15, and then the next stream we did was about 4 hours, and we got from level 15 to 25. So all like 2+ times the length of the stream, and we got a similar number of levels. We actually got fewer levels. So we got 10 instead of 12. But that's just kind of how that goes. It's a cubic equation. I want to say all of the level up math is essentially cubic. It's just a matter of what modifiers are on there. But fortunately for Rattata, it is literally cubic in the sense that it is, the number of experience points you need to get to level X is X cubed. Like, it's very easy math to do, which is fantastic. Others will be like, oh, it's, 4/3 X cubed, or, it'll be an equation that's like blank X cubed plus blank squared, or whatever, and like, it just keeps it nice and simple. But so essentially, right now we have 15,752 experience points. So to get to level 30, we would need 30 cubed experience points total, which is 27,000 experience points. So, like, again, probably not happening. So we're getting about 48 experience points per minute. And we need about 12,000 experience points, which is about 4 hours. And I don't think I'm playing for that long tonight. we started late, partly because I was still rebuilding my setup. Also, not to underplay it, but like I am so tired still. I definitely am not finished catching up on sleep. And it's been one of those like rubber band type headaches all day. So I'm betting we get a solid 3 hours out of this tonight. And then hopefully once I'm back from my trip next week, I'll be able to get a nice juicy one in there, a nice meaty juicy one. This is the Youngster Joey Challenge. Yeah, this is our Rattata percent stream, whatever, what have you, top percent challenge, etc. Inspired by, I'm gonna get this wrong again, was it Circle Magic, I think? Successfully pulling this off essentially with Final Fantasy VII in the first reactor, getting Cloud and Barrett to level, I think, 99 without leaving essentially that first room, I think. It was a hell of an interesting. Have you tried getting an upper endoscopy? I had one recently and got like 26 hours of sleep in 2 days. I am not yet, but I am actually in the process of looking into a few things in that wheelhouse. So, hey, honestly, if it means, honestly, I've been very nervous about the prospect of being like knocked out for a medical procedure, because I've never been knocked out before. The closest I've ever been to getting like knocked out for a medical thing is, or otherwise just sleeping because of one, is when I was like 9-ish. I had an asthma attack, and my mom, like cartoon style, couldn't have more like thrown me into the car if she tried. Flew down the road. Fortunately, we lived like a 5-10 minute drive from the hospital. So that was, if we lived any further away, I might not be here. Like that level of stuff, And so I distinctly remember realizing what was going on. I was literally just kind of sitting on the floor doing something. I might have literally been playing Game Boy for all I know. I might have been playing this for all I know. I could have just been sitting there playing Pokemon Blue. Entirely possible. I actually hadn't put that together before, but like that rough time period, it would have been pretty close. I was 9 in 1996, so like it would have been around that time. But like we went in the car, we were headed for the hospital, and I distinctly remember being awake for most of the drive. I remember getting to there's the boulevard which runs along the river around here. Well, not around here, around my hometown, and the hospital is like real close to that. And I don't remember arriving at the hospital. I remember getting near there, my mom freaking out for good reason, and then waking up. I don't even know if it was the same day or not. It might not have been the same day. But I woke up and I had a big blue, it was like a big, it almost looked like a pool, like buoy, like one of those foam sort of blue things. And essentially, and I guess this was common practice. I don't know if they still do this, but at least in the mid-90s, this was common practice. It was essentially a like protector for if a child needs an IV drip, or otherwise needs to have like a needle in them for something related, whatever. And it keeps them from like touching it, playing with it, or like pulling it out or anything. Not that I was ever going to do that. Like, I think I would have been too terrified to do anything if I saw that. I think it also keeps you from bending that spot enough to like, because if you have like a needle in your arm for like an IV drip or something and you bend it the wrong way, you could kind of do damage there, But so that's the only time I've ever been like out like that. I have been also, sorry, I'm just realizing my voice is a little bit gravelly and a little bit low because I blew it out playing Rock Band during the anniversary stream, and then it never quite made it fully back after that. But so I've been knocked out maybe 2 or 3 other times, not medically. Someone threw a dodgeball at my head in like first grade and hit me hard enough that it knocked me to the ground and knocked me out for a quick sec. That was literally, I mean, so in the classic sense, if someone is knocked out and they're out for literally more than a couple seconds, like that's an emergency immediately. Like that's a problem and you need to figure that shit out fast. The thing in movies and TV where someone gets knocked out and they're out for like a couple hours and then they come to, that's not normal. That's not a thing that happens. So yeah, one time dodgeball to the head at recess, and we had a paved over schoolyard. So I went down. I might have like hit the pavement. I'm not really sure, to be honest. But I woke up like immediately after hitting the ground. I was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like it was probably more like shock response than anything, of just like something happens in your brain, just like, we're just going to erase a quick second or two there. That sort of deal. Similarly, when I was in Taekwondo, when I was probably like, I don't know, I would have been like maybe 13. We had a sparring match. It was me and this kid. So I distinctly remember there were 3 of us that were kind of tight. There was myself, like in the class that we all started around the same time. We got our like belt graduation, promotion, whatever you want to call it, ceremonies at similar times. It was myself, this boy Venancio, and this girl Lakenna. And during one of our sparring matches, this was like right before we both went for black belt, I think. So in Taekwondo, at least in our school, you wear at least 2 specific pieces of gear. You wear a foam helmet, and it's like mostly protection for the top of your head, your ears, and the side of your head, and like your forehead. Your face is generally exposed, but the gist is, whoa, I missed, dang. The gist is you don't, I guess it's 1 in 20 here, but you don't go for the face, obviously. And that would be a problem, especially even in sparring. But you also really aren't meant to like hit each other in the head. It's more just there. The padding is there as like a just in case. But you also wore chest protector, and this was like a very simple bit of padding. It wasn't very thick. It wasn't gonna like cushion much of the impact. It was more just a matter of like spreading the impact out. So like if someone punches you, it's not the same as getting punched in the like directly in the chest. It's the force of that getting spread across your whole torso, so no one's getting actually hurt. It also meant you could like fight a little bit harder without being super worried about like actually hurting your sparring partner. And so we just had some sparring match, and I distinctly remember, so like I said, you're really not meant to go for the head in any of this. You also had like arm and leg protection, and it was like soft pad on the forearms and like the shins. But so Venancio was going for like a roundhouse kick, and he said afterwards, I don't know if this is true or if he just was worried about getting in trouble, but whatever. He said he was trying to like he was trying to go for like sort of a like roundhouse kick that was going to stop. Like he was either gonna kind of like kick before, he was trying to miss intentionally, and he was just kind of sometimes you will do a move in a sparring match that's more for like a little bit of control, I guess, like control of the like arena, the space you're in. Because you have like, it's a square mat usually that you spar in, or you do like matches in, and basically he messed up and he gave me a pretty good kick directly to the side of the head. And fortunately, there was, like I said, there's a lot of padding there, so it absorbed a lot of that impact, but it definitely was still enough force that it like knocked me over, knocked me out for a sec, and then I came to again very quickly after, like maybe a second or two, and he was like, oh my god, and our instructor was kind of like, okay, I think we're done with this for right now. I'm like, okay, yep, that sounds good. And so that was that. Those are, to my recollection, the only 2 times I've ever been like knocked out. I've never otherwise been made to be unconscious. The only other times have been like me sleeping or me just passing out. Yeah, bro, a couple of days ago, I had my second trachea surgery and third surgery. Woof. That sounds super not fun. Hopefully those went okay. The thing in my arm at my last blood test when I had a kidney stone last February. Fuck, that sounds painful too. I want to say, no, I was going to say, I was like, did Ben have a kidney stone? But he didn't. I think he had a gallbladder stone, which my understanding is they are similarly horrible to deal with. But the relief when it's dealt with is supposed to be immaculate. So hopefully you experienced some great catharsis once that was done. My first one was in January of this year. Oh man, at least it's a few months out now, which is pretty good. But I remember I got knocked out when someone threw a softball at my head and was out for 5 minutes. Woke up my class. Was carrying me to the dumpster, thinking I was dead. Oh Jesus Christ! Oof, big oof. Trying to remember, is Hyperfang the one that cuts HP in half, or is that Superfang? I think that's Superfang. Because usually, or at least I would, if I was playing this like normally, I generally would probably stick with Superfang, just because having a normal type move that will take out half of your opponent's HP right off the bat is pretty goddamn good. Okay, yeah, Hyperfang is just a regular attack then. Got it. But yeah, it's just good, you know? The funny part, too, I think we determined during the last stream that I don't think STRATS is going to learn any other physical attacks. So we're stuck with Tail Whip until we are off of Route 1. Which is kind of wild. Honestly, the worst part of all 3 surgeries was the vein finding. I have deep veins. Oh, man, yeah, no, that sounds pretty awful. That's the stuff that, like, I had to recently get blood drawn, like, maybe a month ago, because I got a new PCP, and we were doing, like, just kind of a basic checkup, and there were a few, like, things in, like, not my patient history, but, like, family history that he was like, all right, I just want to check for this. So we did blood test, and it was just, like, they had to do a few of them, and I was like, fuck, I hate this. Because, like, it's one thing to get a shot. Shots are easy. Like, I don't like them, but, like, they're easy. They do the 3, 2, 1. It's in, whoop, and then it's out, and it's good. Like, you kind of have the sensation that, like, it's still in your arm for the day, but otherwise, it's not like you're not really like hurting a ton. It might feel like similar to a bruise, you know. But getting blood drawn, it's like it's in, and it feels like it's just actively doing shit for like a while as they fill that up. It's like, oh man, okay, let's just get through this. God damn. Ugh. Whoop, no, damn it, I keep selecting it. I got put under for throat surgery when I was like 7, so I've always been comfortable with it. Dang. Wow. Sarah was talking about it too before, where like she got put under for something, I forget if it was tonsils. She got put under for something a ways back, and she was like, yeah, it was basically like, all right, count down from 100, and like 100, 99, 98, 90, whoop, and then she was just basically back in afterwards. Like, it's that level of just like out, in, and you're not like snap, you're awake, but like you kind of go, you're out, and then within moments you're just kind of back, like you're coming back in that quickly. And I'm like, sweet, that sounds great, because one, I definitely, you know, I'm a worrier. I worry about a lot of stuff, so in my head I'm just like, oh god, I hope I don't like wake up in the middle of it. I'm kind of a big guy, I'm a pretty big guy, so like I've heard horror stories about like overweight dudes who don't get enough of the cocktail of stuff to knock you out, so that one of the 3 isn't enough, or it fails, or like either you wake up in the middle or you feel what they're doing in the middle of it, or whatever. A little worried about that, but also just like, I hope that it is that instant, because one, I really do not want to know what dreams under all of those drugs would be like. I just don't want to. I don't even want to hazard a guess. And 2, If I'm out for a while, I mean, if I'm out for, I can't imagine that I would be out for long enough for the procedure that we're looking at, that it would actually, be a substitute for a night of sleep. But like, I'll take a nice long nap. I don't know if the brain responds to that in a similar way. Like I understand you're kind of like groggy afterwards, but like, I don't know. Free giant pile of sleep sounds pretty nice to me. Yeah, for some reason the doctor's nurse. I got ahead there. For the record, I have tracheal stenosis. Ooh, I don't know what that is. I'm trying to. Nope, never mind. I was gonna say it was like, oh, that's like a swelling thing, right? And it's like, no, that's itis. Itis is swelling. So I'm not familiar with that one. I told them off trying to play up the fact of me having a hard head. Oh God. For some reason, the doctors and nurses have had trouble finding my veins within the last few months specifically. Interesting. Okay. Mine have usually been pretty good. Like, I can literally just holding my arm out right now, I can see the veins. Like, mine have never been a big deal for that, which is nice because it makes it very easy. There's been a few times where they haven't had to, because sometimes they'll do that thing where they'll take 2 fingers and slap the inside of your elbow. Not like smack it, but like just a little tap, 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 because it kind of agitates stuff around there and it makes them rise up a little bit. So when your airways are too narrow. Okay, all right. Ironically, so one of the things that I've needed to figure out in getting my... So I've got 2 medical things that I'm kind of looking into right now. The second one has like sort of I want to say quiz. Quiz isn't really the right word, but like they have like a questionnaire. Excuse me, that's the one. And one of the questions they had was, do you have sleep apnea? Or it was like a version of sleep apnea, or whatever. But I was like, well, I don't really know. The first thing I'm looking into right now is, do I have sleep apnea? And I took a test for this. It was one that I did, I think about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. And they basically had me use it was like a latex ring that I put on my finger, and it's like the size of like a class ring from like high school or college, but it's like latex rubber type stuff, and it has an infrared light on one side of it, presumably some kind of detector on the other, because then it uses that to kind of scan your veins, I guess, and it detects blood oxygenation. But so I had to do that for 2 nights in a row, and I sent that off, and I haven't heard from them at all since. So like, I need to reach out to them and be like, hey, so is anything happening here? What's going on? Because I can't really schedule the other thing until I know, because if they're asking me if I have sleep apnea, there's going to be a reason for that, and I would like to not get that wrong. Oh, hello, the computer guy, DR. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Howdy. I was realizing I don't think I have any of my usual like notification stuff loaded into this layout, this overlay situation. That's a mistake on my part. I'll have to fix that too. But welcome. We're just talking about moderately scary medical shit. But yeah, like I guess the idea being, if you're someone with sleep apnea getting that kind of a procedure, they have to like, I forget if it's like they have to have somebody that monitors you directly, or they have to change how much knockout stuff they give you, because they don't want to. If the worry is that I'm just gonna stop breathing, like, yeah, that'd be a pretty big problem. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I gotta message some folks to get that sorted out. And I just found my old Game Boy Color in the original Game Boy Advance. Hey, nice. I still have a few of my old original stuff. What is the oldest thing that I still own of my original gaming things? Let's see. So my original brick Game Boy, I think I threw away in high school because a friend of mine threw up on it, and I just did not want to deal with solving that problem. And by this point, it was like, this would have been either late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe it wasn't high school, maybe it was grade school. But at that point, I had a Game Boy Color. And I had had that Game Boy since like, I don't know, 91-ish, something like that. But I was just like, nope, I'm not fixing that. Let's see, what else? The NES that's here might be the original one that my folks bought in like 1989-ish. I don't think that's one that I bought online. I think that's my original one. Apparently, according to legend, the legend being my parents, my mom specifically telling me about this, I don't think it was like so I would have been 2 in 1989, but apparently at some point, at some very early age, my dad was playing Super Mario Brothers and was not very good at it, and they had just gotten the game, and I wanted to play really badly, so they gave me the controller, and I was like just doing fine. I don't think I beat the game or anything, but I was at least like getting further than my 30-ish year old dad. So they kind of had the realization with that. I was like, oh, okay, this is probably going to be his in like a year or two, huh? And I think the one that's behind me right now is still that one. I have a brick Game Boy that I bought much later on. I have an Atari 2600 that I bought much later on. We had an Atari 2600, but that is definitely not the same one. At least I don't think it is. I own a Magnavox Odyssey, but I bought that online. And also, that thing is older than me by like 15 years anyway. I also have an Odyssey. I think it's Odyssey 2000 is the name of it. It's the follow-up one that they did. Oh yeah, the brown box. Yes. I think it's a 2600 and not a 7800. I would have to double check. I think it's 2600 though. I am almost positive I still have my original Game Boy Color, which might have been the first console that was mine. Like, originally? No, that's not true. The Game Boy was. The brick Game Boy was one that my grandmother bought for me. And I felt so bad later on because she bought it for me, and I turned it on, and I was upset because it was broken, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Every time we turned it on, the screen was black. And she wound up being like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll go return this. Maybe it's just a faulty one. I'll get you a new one. And, like, I was very grateful for that. I wasn't, like, making a stink or anything, but we got the new one, and that one also, we turned it on and it was black, and we're like, what's going on? And that was when we realized what the slider on the side of the brick Game Boy is for, because that was the contrast slider, which thank God was not a thing anymore beyond the original brick Game Boy. I'm pretty sure they got rid of that by the time the Game Boy Pocket came out. My Game Boy Advance had battery acid in the area, put the batteries in, and it shockingly still worked with Oh, yeah, no, I've had that issue many, many times with Game Gear, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. All of those have had battery acid issues at one point or another. Probably, I don't know if it's a storage thing or if the batteries were just super old or what, but yeah, all of those have had some level of battery acid stuff. I think my Wiimotes have had it too. Pretty sure the slider was still in the Game Boy Pocket. Was it actually? Okay. I that's the only one that I never owned. I owned a brick Game Boy, and then I owned a Game Boy Color. I did not own the Pocket in between, so I don't have a lot of it. Or a Game Boy Light for that matter, but I think that one was more of a Japanese thing. Also, hello. Howdy. We're sneaking up on level 26 as we approach the 6-hour mark. But yeah, I'm trying to remember, because we got a Genesis at one point, and I don't remember when. I don't remember when we got that, because as much as I loved playing Sonic games, I don't have very crystal clear memories of getting Sonic games. But it's interesting, because I distinctly remember how when I got a Game Gear, my dad packed it in a tiny box which he put into a slightly larger box and a slightly larger box and a slightly larger box, and it kept doing that for like 10 boxes, and he had a blast watching that happen. I was not thrilled because this was the last present on Christmas, and I was like, I just want to play with my things. Why are we doing this? I never keep batteries in anything I haven't used in a few days since my Xbox 360 controller corroded. Oh no. I don't think I've gotten that unlucky with it yet, but I'm sure it will happen sooner or later. Boo, Hyperfang. What is the accuracy of Hyperfang? First Game Boy was color, and I remember a friend having a Pocket and being super confused on the point of the contrast slider. Yeah, like, it's so funny because, like, from a mechanical standpoint, I do sort of understand the idea. Either, you know, differing light situations, or maybe it's just a preference thing, or hell, if we want to get a little bit cynical, it could even be them going, well, we're not going to be able to like 100% calibrate all of these, so if we have a slider, so long as the correct spot is somewhere in that range, then they'll be all set. But this is like 90 or even 85. All right, it's 90. Okay. All right. So that one's gonna be our biggest missing one. But I would have to actually really sit and think of the math. Is it more efficient to skip these 15 attacks? Because also tackle misses 1 in 20. But I can say for sure that we're not going to save time by going back home every time we run out of quick attack. Because we're going back home, almost 3 times as often. Like 2.5 times more frequently. And that does eat at some of our time here. We're just barely not going to get to level 26 before we run out of moves. That's a bummer. So how many streams is it going to be? That's a good question. It's going to depend on length of stream. But I would wager... I would wager probably in the ballpark of like 80. If I can sneak some like very long ones in there, then that'll bring that down probably. But I would say if we're assuming like a 4-ish hour average across these, which is what I'm kind of aiming for. We're not going to get there tonight because I'm still resetting all my audio stuff. But like, I think if we're able to get like 4 to 5 hours as like the average, then yeah, it'll probably be like an 80 stream series. I'll be very curious to see. And actually, in fairness too, as we get further down the line, we're going to hit a point where we'll be getting about 1 level per stream, and that amount of time will obviously increase as we go. And for a chunk of time, probably in like the 80s vaguely, is going to be the point where we're trying specifically to stream long enough to get a level per stream. So that might actually bring the total number down a little bit. Pokemon Y to commence. Oh my god. All right, let me update the thing. At some point, I will hopefully be able to automate this process slightly. There we go. Thank you. Pokemon Y to commence. Dave's winning, no one else's. Oof. Oh, right. Yeah. I thought that was a dig. First, I read that as a dig at Jeff, which it technically is by referring to Dave's win. Then I thought it was a dig at me. Before I realized after that, I was like, oh, wait. Oh, whoops. I ran out of stuff. Let's get out of here. Oops. Wasn't paying attention. So the funny part is, I think the way that I'm counting fights on the bottom is I have a trigger that goes off every time a Pokemon is knocked out. So ones that we run from are not included in that total, which is fine. I'm more interested in how many battles we complete than battles we enter. Some more James Carlos for Team John. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. Well. Cool. Okay, there we go. But yeah, not to put a thumb on the scale or anything, but it probably makes slightly more sense for me to do games that I haven't done already, like versions I haven't done already. But I'm certainly open to redoing ones that I've done before. Like the version differences are such a minor difference in the grand scheme of things. Ironically, you know what though? Come to think of it, so the plan is, if I catch like the family clause is going to be extended across the entire thing. So I catch a Pidgey in one game, that family is no longer catchable in any future game, which will obviously have a pretty huge ripple effect down the line. But what I hadn't considered is version exclusives, because the more we ping pong between like games that share version exclusives, like, oh, these are the games that Vulpix appears in, these are the games that Ponyta appears in, like that type of thing, that may actually impact, at least to a certain extent, how many Pokemon we're actually able to acquire in a given game. I hadn't really considered that aspect of it, actually. I forget between Gold and Silver, I forget between Red and Blue and Gold and Silver which ones line up with which in terms of the exclusive Pokemon, because I think that generally the version exclusives tend to stay clustered together anytime that comes up. Not every time, but like a lot of the time. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see how that plays out a little bit. I would still play the shit out of Sly 3, yeah. Oh, sorry, I missed that combo from before. I think I remember getting, back in 2005, getting Sly 3 for Christmas and playing the shit out of it with my older siblings. Nice. Very nice. We do actually have some Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus in the can recorded. I haven't made a post about this yet, either on Blue Sky or on the Discord, but I think this week I'm not going to be putting up any videos. I'm kind of I'm in like a recovery lull, we'll say. Post-PAX, post-anniversary weekend, pre-99 turn game, pre-Scotland trip. I'm trying to catch my breath a little bit. I also have a couple of work project things I'm trying to wrap up before we go. But give me a record. Oh God. I should try 100%ing Sly 3 sometime. I've never actually played any beyond the first one. My sister had the first game growing up, and I played it a decent amount. But I never... Strat, stop evolving. But I never played... I don't think she ever had the sequels, and I never played them myself. So maybe that'll be something we swing around to, later on. I don't know. But yeah, so I think... I got all the collectibles, but didn't bother with all the mini games at harder difficulties. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we would necessarily 100% them if we did that. I don't even think we're really planning on 100%ing Sly 1. We're doing a bunch of the stuff, but we're not doing because isn't there am I crazy? Isn't there a time trial thing in each of those two or something once you've beaten them once? I'm trying to remember. Sly 3 is very much the Spyro 3 of the trilogy, lots of alternate gameplay styles. Okay. Sly was not made by the same studio as Spyro, was it? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember how they associate, but I know that the studio behind Spyro and the studio behind Crash Bandicoot ultimately did Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. Not the same one studio, but each of those two studios ultimately moved on to make those two other franchises as well. Sucker Punch. Okay. Oh yeah, Sucker Punch doesn't exist anymore, right? Sly developers did Rocket Robot on Wheels, which we also owned. We owned that one. That's N64, I think, right? For some reason in my head, I tend to conflate Rocket Robot on Wheels and Tonic Trouble, and I don't know why. Rocket Robot on Wheels, though, is a fun one. It's a very physicsy sort of platformer. Sucker Punch still exists. They made Ghost of Tsushima / Yote. Okay. Then is it then maybe it's the studio that was like publishing it or something. I could have sworn there was like a rights issue with Sly Cooper recently. I might be thinking of something else. Tonic Trouble is Ubisoft. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that like that they were related. I'm just saying for some reason in my brain, my memories of Rocket and Tonic Trouble are kind of for the Sly trilogy on PS4, 5. Yeah, but I could swear that there was some kind of weird either publisher or developer thing that went down recently because I could swear that I was like chatting with like Jeff or Sarah or somebody about or Peter about this recently, but I could be very mistaken. I was recently watching some stuff talking about Toys for Bob though. That's an interesting saga going on with like Spyro and everything. It's such a bummer that like Spyro and Crash both got their big like remake trilogy type things, and oh hey, here's Crash 4. It's about time. That's fun. Great. How about Spyro? Crickets. And then the studio got tasked with working on Warframe stuff, and it's like or Warzone stuff, and it's like, man, that's disappointing. But yeah. Still a possibility Toys for Bob could develop a new Spyro as a third-party developer. Yes, because they're independent now. Thank fuck for that. They got very lucky and were able to kind of buy themselves out of ownership of. Because I think they were under Activision, and Activision is now under Xbox. I think is how that pile-up was working. But Toys for Bob bought themselves out of ownership, so now they're fully independent. I'll appreciate a stream with a face cam. Yeah, I'm a little bit scraggly today. I don't know if you can tell. I thought, by the way, I was hoping that somewhere out there was going to be a Game Boyified, like Gen 1 style sprite of Cacnea, and there isn't. So that is very much the Gen 3 Cacnea sprite, but with the I think it's either the Route 1 or Pallet Town palette for Game Boy Color use. So I just crushed the colors into that palette, and I was like, this is a cute way of doing this. And we know they're making an Xbox game studio. Oh, yes, yeah. I had heard something about that. They had an XGS game that they're doing. And everybody's kind of like, okay, so what's that going to be? How wild would it be if it was a huge swerve and it's like, well, actually, we're making a new Banjo game. Does Rare even exist anymore? Really, I know people have made Gen 5 sprites of all the later Pokemon, and then there's some projects to backport those sprites for Gen 3 for products like Radical Red and Inclement Emerald, yeah. No, Gen 3 and Gen 5, or I guess Gen 3 through Gen 5, all have just shitloads and shitloads of custom sprites for things. But if I was going for like a Gen 1 version, apparently there's not a ton of those, which is a little surprising. Not for the least of which being if I was going to make a... I've had in the back of my head a Pokemon fan game idea for a long time, and I don't know what style I would go for it visually, but there was a point in time where I was debating a Game Boy styled thing since it takes place roughly in the era of the Game Boy games, and at one point I went looking for Game Boy style sprites, and I couldn't find any for later stuff, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Yeah, I know part of they make Sea of Thieves. I could have sworn I've seen multiple Gen 1 sprite Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find any. I didn't look for super long, to be honest. This was the result of me scrambling last week to try to find something. So I didn't have a ton of time. But honestly, at the end of it, I was actually very happy with this. So I was like, this is fine. I can live with that. But yeah, I don't know. The other art style that I would consider going for the fan game idea I had, it would be a shitload more work, but I think it'd be a lot more charming. For much longer than I've had a Pokemon fan game idea, I've had a Pokemon fan game art style idea, which is like hand-drawn looking art, in the sense of not so much like Sugimori style art, Although I'm sure someone could do that and have it look really nice. But kind of like the thicker sort of pencil-styled art. I don't really know how to describe it. Not quite as scratchy as Yoshi's Island, but kind of in that ballpark. In terms of like thick lines, maybe a slightly simplified look with stuff. Yo, Hito! Hello, hello! Hito raiding with a party of 2. Hello! Howdy, howdy. Welcome to hell. Our eternal anguish is right here. Yo, 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 yo! What are you up to? What are you doing tonight? We've got a long, long way to go, as evidenced by my calculus robot going on in the bottom left there. I'm still a little below average for experience per fight. That's kind of a bummer that we've been... I don't think we've ever been above average for that. But all currently available Poké... All right. I could click... Oh, I've got my setup right now that I'm... Let me do this very quickly. Ooh. Interesting. Okay. Let's see here. Where's my guy? I can't remember where he is in the order. I can't see him. I will have to... Oh, I thought I just saw him. Nope, that's Trubbish. I'll have to look through this later, but... Alright, that's pretty cool. Old set, though, only up to Gen 5. I mean, that does, satisfy most of what I'd ultimately be kind of looking for there. Kirby's Dream Land 2, and I've all the time said, Rick, I need help seem to probe it descended. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Dreamland 2 is so interesting because it is... It's basically like, all right, what if Kirby's Dream Land was also Kirby's Adventure? I really like how they do the powers in 2. The abilities are really nice. There's something about like there's something in the feel of 2 that I really, really like. I think part of it is because like they've really leaned in on the animal friends a lot. 3 executed them better. I would say that 3. It's so interesting because like there's such a different feel for all of those early ones. Probably my least favorite of the 3. Completely outclassed by 3. Interesting. Okay. I want to say in 3 the fireball got like super nerfed, didn't it? God, I'm trying to remember. Also, I think Needle was kind of went through a weird phase during that early, set of games too. The light bulb with kind doesn't shoot forward. Oh yeah. That was such a neat little ability there. The challenge of late game 2 is quite a lot higher, I think, than the challenge of late game 3. And yeah, Dreamland 3 is way more about puzzle solving in most stages. That's true. I don't know that I love that they expected you to essentially play most of those stages twice in order to figure out what you had to do. Because it does feel a slight bit padded that way, but I found the puzzles pretty good. They got a little repetitive as well. There were definitely a few where it's like, oh, here's your 5x5 grid of blocks that you have to break into a specific shape type thing, Dreamland 2 only had like 1 hidden door per world. Yeah, there wasn't a lot going on with that. Oh yeah, because that's how you got the rainbow drop pieces, right? In 2. Usually it'd be a hidden door. And then once you got all of those together, it does its thing. It becomes a sword. And then you fight dark matter, right? Rainbow cigars. They do look cigar-like. They're very... I think the most technical term is like an oblong spheroid, maybe oblate spheroid. Long sphere, essentially. Kirby 64 cranked up the mood whiplash. Honestly, like, it's so interesting to me when folks get into like the lore of Kirby, because everyone has an opinion of like when Kirby started getting like kind of weird and dark with like its endgame stuff, but it's literally always been that way, you know? Like Kirby's Adventure, at the end of an otherwise very cheerful and dreamy sort of game, you're suddenly fighting a tornado vampire in space who like throws these jagged stars at you while you're crashing down to Earth or down to Dreamland, Popstar. Like, it's been like that forever. And you get dark matter in a couple games, starting with Dreamland 2. You get, oh my god, I'm trying to remember, because Miracle Matter is... Are Miracle Matter and O2 are both Kirby 64, right? What the hell is the big one from... Maybe Miracle Matter is the one from Dreamland 3, and then O2 is the Angel type one from 64. Oh, do I have it backwards? Oh, my bad. Oh, yeah, no, I guess Miracle Matter makes sense because it's the Angel, yeah. Zero. Oh, sorry, Zero. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Big white one with the eyeball, with the red eye, yeah. 02 is how the one in 64 is pronounced. Okay, yeah. The one that 02 is the two of. Yes. No, that was the one I was thinking of. I was misremembering the name. Oh, right, because it's the like icosahedron one is 02, right? And then the Angel is the Miracle Matter. In 64. And playing Pokemon ZA, streaming to some friends on Discord, and the game is so boring and repetitive. I need 5 random mythicals to finally complete my national decks at home. It'll take so much grinding to unlock their quests. Oof. Yeah, I'm curious where... Oh, the icosahedron is the Miracle Matter? That's interesting. You would think that the one that is, like, designed after... I guess in fairness, the icosahedron one is potentially taking some inspiration from, like, biblical interpretations of angels. Has the faces of each of the abilities. I guess so. Okay. All right. I guess that's fair. I just feel like you got what you know, the second form looking like a cherubic type angel. You know, it makes more sense to me to have that one be Miracle, but I can see the logic there. But also with the big one being 02 to match 0 from the previous one. It's like that makes sense too. But Kirby's supposed to be adorable and wholesome. Yeah. And there's a few games where that's the case. Most of the spin-off games are pretty wholesome. Kirby's Dream Land 1 is wholesome. That might be all of them. The ones that don't have some weird like cosmic thing going on off the top of my head are like Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby's Pinball Land, Kirby's Block Ball, Star Stacker, not Super Star Stacker because you fight a space witch if you do well enough. They're an adorable space witch, but they're still a space witch. Kirby's Dream Course. Kirby's Blowout Blast, I guess. I feel like there's not many others that will not be kind of freaky and weird. Oh, Kirby's the best. Kirby's amazing and precious. He's also possibly an infant cosmic entity, you know? Do you know there's a whole cult centered around the idea that a biblical description of an angel kind of sounds like a UFO if you really squint? Okay. I can kind of see how those dots get connected. I can grapple with how someone would arrive at that. But also this requires this has the prerequisite that not only do you believe in UFOs in the like media interpretation of that to some degree, but you also believe that they've been around for a very, very long time, flying, you know, little saucer type ships or what have you, or maybe they're geometrically confusing non-Euclidean, you know, vessels, etc., etc. I'm trying to remember the name of it's sadly pretty pessimistic and nihilistic, but it does strike me as the most like plausible one. It's called like the. Oh no, I'm mixing up things. I was gonna say The Great Filter, but that's something else. But yeah, I don't know. I am generally of the opinion that are we alone in the universe? Probably not. The universe is fucking enormous, and it would be kind of silly with no evidence to just assume it's just us. The real kicker, though, is can anyone else in the universe reach us? Which seems also extremely unlikely, just because of how physics work. Even with, hypothetical, and more transcendental stuff like wormholes and the like. So I don't know. It sure would be interesting if we found proper, real evidence of like intelligent life out there in the universe. Great Filter is the idea that most, if not all, intelligent species end up going extinct because they developed advanced weapons before they achieve peace or colonize other planets. Okay, which, to be fair, given the age of the universe, the age of the Earth, there's certainly the possibility of other whole civilizations that have come and gone across the universe long before we showed up. And like, I'm far from saying that's definitely a thing that happened, but I would certainly at least be willing to go along with the idea. Granted, we don't have any evidence of that happening either, so like, I'm open to a lot of different options. My opinion on Kirby Deep Lore is that it's fun, cool, that there are whispers of some cosmic horror conflict from an age-long past, but the appeal is that it's done through the lens of Kirby, the innocent little guy. Yeah, I think I would generally agree with that, where one of the things that really makes Kirby as a character appealing is that he is not in any way tainted by all of the bizarre, insane shit going on around him. Because there's times where like stuff... It's one thing when it's like, ooh, dark matter, that's weird. Ooh, Zero, that's weird. And like it's a brief sort of one-off thing. It's almost another thing entirely when you've got your like Fecto Forgo type stuff where it's like these are cosmic entities that are actively warping reality around him. And he still is just kind of like, whoa, what? This is weird. All right, I'm going to have to defeat you, I guess. And that's just it. Like he's not, it's not one of those we're different people now type scenarios when it's all over. So yeah, I don't know. Speculating the details that they kind of give us can be fun. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's fun to look into the lore, and it's cute the different ways they decide to drop little Easter egg connections. Like during, was it Highness? The big nose guy from Star Allies, I think. Once you defeated the three elemental, girls, whatever, I forget Flamberge and those three. He has this huge long screed that goes by at lightning speed, but there's just a few nuggets in there if you pause it, where if you read the description, it does sound like possibly like his worshipping group is actually a cult to, dark matter or something. Like, there's little tiny bits in there. Little tiny bits. And it's a fun way of doing lore because you're never fully like you're never fully like married to something because you don't give away too much that you're like, oh, well, that's just a thing now. Krakow is actually secretly a dark matter because of XYZ thing that they said or whatever. Speaking of aliens, anyone else watch Project Hail Mary? Currently poised to be my film of the year, but I'm not a film buff, so I might have missed a real gem somewhere. Honestly, so I'm not a film buff either, but I definitely do follow a few folks who fashion themselves as film buffs, and they also seem to be very, very, very into Project Hail Mary, with the unfortunate asterisk of, man, Andy Weir really shoved his foot all the way down his throat in that interview talking about Star Trek and how he perceives science fiction and politics in art. There was definitely a point in time where I would have gone along with the idea that I'll rephrase this. there was definitely a point in time where I argued myself that not all art is political. And, like, that's a thing that, like, there's nuance to that kind of conversation in the first place. But I definitely had a viewpoint ages ago where, like, yeah, you can make a movie that doesn't have politics. And it's like, that's not quite true. They might not be overt in the politics that they are espousing or supporting or endorsing or whatever. But, like, art is political. Like, I've come around on that in my time. It's like, no, I was an idiot for thinking otherwise. Like, no, all art is political to some degree or another. Like, so I think some people take that phrase to mean, like, oh, my science fiction movie has an XP of Donald Trump, and that's what makes it political. It's like, that's not really the bar. That's, like, way beyond what the baseline is. And obviously that would itself also be political, but, like, that's not where the bar is. The bar is not, oh, this person is actually a metaphor for Margaret Thatcher. It's like, no, it's more about, like, concepts, like what you consider, what your movie suggests are good and bad qualities in a person is a political statement. What the drive is, what the conflict is between your characters is a form of politics. Like, you are arguing something whether you mean to or not. And sometimes, creators don't really think that through very well, and they wind up creating arguments that are really not what they meant to say, essentially, or not something that they believe in, but they're accidentally arguing for. Is influenced by politics in some way. I can see that as well. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think one of the biggest hurdles with the conversation around all art being political is some people hear the word political and they think politics in the form of, like, elections and elected government, like government, not because, like, there are personal politics. And in some ways the phrasing is maybe a little misleading too, because you could also say all art is opinionated. And that kind of means a similar thing. It's not quite the same, but it's very close. And I feel like you'd be hard pressed to find many people who would disagree that all art, like actual art, is opinionated. I think that'd be a much harder thing to argue against, There's definitely a lot of political... Oh, yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, there are people who definitely accidentally make political statements and they don't realize it, whether they mean to or not, or it just kind of happens. Like, it's very funny because his own writing is more political than he thinks it is, apparently. Oh, absolutely. Honestly, most science fiction ultimately is. In some ways, science fiction tends to be, a lot of the time, more black and white than real-life politics in terms of, like, statements that you make. There's not a lot of gray area between the sci-fi political statement of we must destroy the others, whatever those others are, versus we must find a way to find peace between us. There's rarely a good bridge between those. You got your alien-type movies where, it's this other thing we must destroy or survive, or... I can't even... or you got a Star Trek where it's like, we must find a way to get along, despite our differences, or despite, what this other person has done. We must find a way to together unite and be better, as parts of a bigger whole than ourselves, kind of thing. There's multiple books about humanity coming together to help each other. Yep. All art is influenced by politics. Yep, mentioned that before. It'd be nice if it wasn't political. Yeah, or if that wasn't political. But yeah, Star Trek is always... Yeah, Star Trek is famously political. Like, holy shit. Like, William Shatner and Nichelle Nichols having an on-screen kiss was like a big fucking deal. That was a huge goddamn deal when that happened. Like, they basically threatened... I'm trying to remember the exact story, but I want to say... I forget if it was that... I don't remember who wound up going to bat for it the hardest out of, like, Shatner and Nichols and like Gene Roddenberry and them. I think it was kind of everybody on the set was like, no, we're just doing this. Fuck them. But it was definitely a risk. Like they could have gotten the show at the time could have gotten. Oh, that's what it was. Yes, that's what it was. William Shatner intentionally fucked up every other take that they didn't do it so that they were forced to use it. That's what it was. That's what it was. Which is honestly a pretty like William Shatner has some issues and had some issues. He's far from a perfect person by any stretch. But you gotta fucking commend that move. That takes some fucking steel ones. I'm sure that both of them got a lot of shit flung their way over that. But like that was a pretty important thing. In the same way as oh god, wasn't it like a noir movie out of like the 40s or 50s or something that was the first time a toilet flush was heard in a movie or something like that, or maybe it was much later actually, come to think of it. But like it stuff that feels like it's so silly, but like, you know, at the time no one had done it or it was against the rules and they were like, fuck that rule, that's stupid. Obviously a bit of a bigger thing when you're making the political statement or of like, oh yes, our white and our white lead actor and our black was she the communications officer? I'm trying to remember what Uhura's actual like main role was on the Enterprise. I think it was communications officer. Yeah, okay. But yeah, like white and black leads kissing on camera was like, that was a big fucking deal for a whole lot of reasons that we've to certain extents made it past, and sadly in others we're still not quite there yet, but yeah, the idea that Star Trek was ever not political is fucking cartoon logic. If you're a person, it's one of the reasons that it's so fucking silly that like Elon Musk considers himself a big fan of Star Trek, and it's like, dude, Star Trek hates you. Like, you as a person, Star Trek despises you, man. Nothing you believe in is what Star Trek believes in, other than, ooh, this future might be cool and techie. That's it. But like, yeah, the idea that Star Trek was ever not political, is crazy talk. You have to actively be not watching to think that was not political. Even in the Shatner era, like obviously it was a much more social commentary driven, you know, peace-faring type thing as the aim more during Next Generation. But even during the original series, like there were shitloads of episodes about, oh, here's a planet with these two peoples that can't seem to get along. What are we going to do? Type thing. She did not intend to make a political statement with season 2, but the main villain literally says, "We can make hell great again," is one of his big villain songs. Yeah, that's a pretty on-the-nose one. It's possible that she wasn't originally planning to make it like that overtly political, but that's pretty bluntly political. It's the same as oh geez, what was the movie? Was it a Shyamalan movie? Fairly recently, the one where not Bird Box, but it was a different one where you could not. Oh, actually, maybe it was Bird Box. The one where if you opened your eyes outside, yeah, Bird Box. There was a John Malkovich plays a character who, at one point, when they make it to a grocery store, he winds up grabbing some of the liquor off the shelf and is drinking some, and he's getting drunk, and he proclaims to the group that they're going to make the apocalypse. They're going to make the apocalypse great again or something. It's just like, oh, okay. Well, we're just going to put that right out there. All right. Well, we know this character pretty well now. Got it. Like, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's a little on the nose. I don't know how I feel about it in some cases. It really depends on like how it gets utilized. First gay kiss on TV wasn't until the late 80s. Really? Okay. I will admit I'm less familiar with when the first one there was. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Because, like, from my own experience in media, actually come to think of it, because I was going to say, is like, what's the first, like, openly gay, like, media that I remembered from, like, growing up in the 90s? I guess Will and Grace would have been, like, probably the big one, but I genuinely don't even remember if there I feel like there must have been, but I don't know for sure if there was any gay, like, kissing on the show, or if it was always just implied. There must have been. It feels insane to even think about a show that ran that long without having that once, you know? Oh, I'm gonna pull that open. I didn't even consider that there might be a Wikipedia page for that. That's perfect. 1672 is being the first thing in there is pretty wild. Oh, this is a long page. There's a lot of good stuff here. I don't think I'm going to be able to dig through this right now. Actually, you know what? Hang on. Here's what I can do. Yeah, there we go. Now I can drag this to the side, and I can see a lot of the text on here. Let's see. Let's see. No, this is I've still got like half of this covered up, which isn't helping. Whoop, there we go. Australian soap opera number 96 featured the first openly gay and regular character played by Joe Hasham. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. On television, or Hasham, I don't know. On television anywhere in the world, Hasham's character, Don Finlayson, continued the show was canceled in 1978. Both the character and the actor were wildly popular. Very cool. First gay kiss on U.S. television was the same time as the UK. The 1970 production of Edward II, which aired on some stations on the East Coast. Full national program was Dawson's Creek in 2000. Whoa. That's a lot later than I would have expected. A lesbian kiss appeared in LA Law in 1991. Okay. So does that mean... When did Will and Grace air? Because I feel like I'm about to eat my words here. Like, did that show go for that long and not feature a gay kiss? Because that was like mid to late. Did it go into the 2000s? Maybe that did go into the 2000s. I keep thinking that in my head as being like roughly the same time as like Seinfeld, but I think I'm a little bit off on there. 98 to 2006. Okay, so that is definitely, yeah, that's later than I was thinking. Okay, that makes more sense then. Because yeah, that's like, it's just, even as a show conceptually, that does feel like, so they still went through like at least a good 2 or 3 seasons, if they ever did in the show, which still feels like wild from like a show running perspective. Oh man, I'm trying to remember. Was it John Cryer? No, John Cryer is the one who was eventually in 2.5 Men. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember the characters' names. The skinny one who also wound up being in Cat in the Hat movie. The awful Mike Myers one. I've seen him in so many goddamn things, and I can't remember his fucking name. I've gotten much worse at remembering actor names. Also, real super tragic with was it James Vanderbeek that recently passed? Speaking of Dawson's Creek. 2000 feels way late. Yeah, that was so fucking sad to hear about. Ugh. That one really like struck me too, as like I don't know, growing up I was very used to people who were in their, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, who were passing away or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, I've heard of them before, I guess. And then in like college and young adulthood, and even as the D-pad got started, I would hear of like, you know, folks who would pass and be like, oh, that's a bummer. I've seen like a movie or two with them or whatever. This is now, it's just like, oh, okay. Like, he was a little bit older than me, but not by that much. Probably, he would have been probably about, like 50. It gets a little bit anxiety inducing as they, maybe like 52, as they are getting closer in age to where I'm at. It definitely takes on a slightly different flavor at that point. Apparently George Bush commented on the campaign trail threatening to defund PBS. Jesus fucking Christ. What an asshole. It's a real bummer when people are like, man, I miss the Bush years. It's like, compared to right this instant, sure, but like, you don't miss the Bush years. You miss not being in these years. That's a big difference. There's plenty of elements of what's going on right now that are exactly the same too. Isn't everything great? This is great podcast type content for our Pokemon fucking streams. Jesus. Oh man. We're going down some interesting roads tonight. There's pictures coming from around the moon. That's fun. Artemis 2, I think. Cacnea is immortal, will never die. It's true. It's very true. Just by virtue of, at the very least, Cacnea will live on for, I don't know, billions of years. Will presumably live on until the end of the Earth. Maybe this video will too. Who knows? No, realistically, this video will last about as long as YouTube does once the VOD goes up, or as long as the channel does. But who knows down the line? YouTube may have to start figuring out a similar process for what Facebook does when like a person passes, where they put it into like memorial mode. I'd be very curious to see if YouTube ever grapples with that on their side. Because, like, I'm sure, I mean, YouTube's been around for 20 years. There's plenty of folks who've made content on the website who are no longer with us. But generally, the user base of YouTube has skewed much younger than the user base of Facebook. So it's probably not something that they've had to deal with as much. They probably aren't dealing with it at all. Because, like, what are they going to do? Delete videos? When will the Pokemon series end? We haven't really ever seen any of these giant corporate media pieces of culture end for good before. Yeah, I think, for one, it's not ending anytime soon. The Pokemon Company makes way the fuck too much money. They could keep making these games for another decade without selling a single copy and still have money to spare. So, like, Pokemon will probably outlive all of us, realistically. There's a very high likelihood that Pokemon is around after we're dead. Like, but I don't know. It's so interesting because, like, not only have the giant ones not come down, but, like, we haven't even seen small franchises properly be forever dead either. Like, Mega Man is honestly a pretty good example of a franchise that keeps coming back to life briefly and dying again, but, like, it's not dead. It's not over. Castlevania is about to have a new game sometime soon, I think. And that's been fucking underwater for the last decade. So, like, I don't know. I don't think Pokemon is... The only point at which Pokemon ends is when they stop making money. And I don't see Pokemon stopping making money anytime soon. And, like... You think of... I guess the shortest answer is, I don't know if any company-owned franchises post-1960 are ever going to properly be dead for good. Like, it's notable right now that CBS is shutting down the Late Show. Like, that's kind of a big deal that's going to be going away. But that's such a rare, weird thing. Leak info: Legend ZA had a budget of only $14 million. That's actually pretty surprising. Like, there's obviously some issues with the game in terms of like what they pulled off. I do think that it is still the best that they've done so far in the 3D era. But like, $14 million is a pretty, like, a surprisingly small budget for how much money they churn out, or how much money they pull in, I guess, with any given release. Not counting marketing or localizing, which is done by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company International, not Game Freak. Yeah, that's a good point too. But yeah, 10 million copies, $70 a pop, is $700 million in revenue, which, like, obviously that money goes to a bunch of different directions because of investors and stuff. Nintendo gets chunks and Pokemon Company gets chunks and all that stuff. But like, yeah, that's a huge. Oh yeah, have a good one, Joe Buddy. I'll catch you later. But yeah, the money that they make, even from the games that have done quote-unquote badly, are massive enough to entirely support the next game on their own. Like, Pokemon is a money printing machine. Marketing's probably a 9-digit number, and localization's probably a few million. Even still, like, we've got a game that's pulling in almost $1 billion in revenue, and certainly by the time ZA is done selling units, it'll be $1 billion. Like, it seems unlikely that they won't manage to sell another like 4-ish million copies over time. So just call it $1 billion for shorthand. Like, $1 billion off a $14 million budget is ludicrous return on investment. It's a 70-to-1 return on investment. That's nuts. I do wish that they would spend more money and time on these games. And I do appreciate that. All right, Winds and Waves is coming, next year, right? So, hopefully they're putting more money, more effort into these things to make sure that they're really polishing them up, being like core titles. I know they say the Legends ones are core titles. The Legends games are kind of becoming their own spun-off sub-series, realistically, but they call them core titles because I think they're more like AA entries in the franchise, but different league. Marvel Spider-Man 2 had a dev budget of $214 million with a $250 million marketing budget. That all sounds pretty accurate, yeah. And like, granted, it does look like a game with a 9-figure dev budget for sure, and it does play like one with a 9-figure budget as well. But like, yeah, if you told me that Legends ZA had a budget of like $50 million, I'd believe that too. Like, that would be something I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can see that. 14 is like, that's surprising. That's very surprising. So clearly the answer is, if I ever win the lottery, I'm going to invest in some video games. Buy some stock in the Pokemon Company, I don't know. Or at least Nintendo. Nintendo stock kind of fluctuates a lot, but there was a point where I almost bought stock in Nintendo many years back. I think it was like as the Wii was like getting announced and stuff, but I was also like 17, 18 at the time, and I wasn't really sure how that worked. But I looked into it, and then afterwards I saw how much Nintendo stock jumped, and I was like, oh man, that'd have been nice. I don't really get myself involved in stock market stuff basically at all. I could, if I wanted to do a bunch of research, I hypothetically could, but I don't know. I don't really like the idea of a lot of that stuff, and it's so easy to lose everything. I don't know. I bought back in, I don't know, 2015-ish probably, just for the hell of it, I think I bought like was it $100 or $1,000? I forget. It was some amount of money worth of like Bitcoin and Ether. Just because I was like, you know what? They just crashed by like 50%. Maybe I'll grab some now, see if I can double it. That'd be kind of cool. And then it crashed another 50% the day after that. So I was like, oh, well, shit. It took a year and a half for me to get my money back. That's how long it took for it to climb back up to where it was before. And the second my money was essentially at the same point, I took it back out and was like, I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. It was very annoying. You know, Game Freak only has like 120 devs, and like a third of them work on Legends at any given time, assuming 100,000 average salary for artists and coders. That'd be about 3 years, which sounds right to me. Yeah, I guess that's pretty accurate. That sounds about right. Yeah. So it'd be 100K times 40-ish devs is about 4 million times 3 years is 12 million. Some flexibility in there gets you to 14. Yeah. Sounds about right. It's honestly kind of surprising in some ways that Game Freak isn't a larger company, like personnel-wise. Because I think like some of these games come out and you expect it to be like a humongous team. And then it's like, oh, you can sit through the credits and you can read every single name that passes by. And that's the size of the team. It's like, oh, all right. Very interesting. I don't know. Alright. What are we doing next? Alrighty. Have a quick swig. Get my energy going. Oh, if anybody came in late or whatever, if you want to use your D points that are accruing at the bottom of the screen there, you can vote in our poll. We've got polls that we're doing for each of these streams because once we are finished raising stress level 100, I have a series that I'm going to be beginning called Pokemon Generational Trauma. I'm doing a full genlock of the franchise. All 10 generations, 2 dips into Gen 5. We got a lot of stuff to decide on our way there. So each stream has a thing, has a question, and you can use your D points. I believe it's 100 D points gets you 1 vote. You can multiply that out as much as you like. Game Freak is decidedly a AA studio, smaller dev teams than stuff like Dave the Diver or Claire Obscure. All right. I've never played Dave the Diver. Actually, sorry, just adjusting my seat a little bit. One of the more fascinating things to me lately is how popular Vampire Survivor got. I don't know what I thought Vampire Survivor was, but I finally tried it out a couple months ago, and while it is fun, and I have played many Vampire Survivor-like games before that without realizing it, I'm honestly... And there's no way for me to phrase this that doesn't sound like a dig on the developer or developers. I'm a little surprised how janky the game is. Like, the gameplay is generally fine. But, like, there's something about the look of the game that is strange to me. Like, it's an inconsistent it's like an inconsistent visual aesthetic. Like, there's pixely stuff, there's not pixely stuff, there's differently sized pixely stuff, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate inconsistent pixel density. Don't do that, ever. The most you can do, if you're gonna mix your pixel density, it has to be integer. It has to be integer scaling. Perfect example of that is what's on the screen right now. The sprites on the bottom left are 2 times the size, like the pixels are double the size of the pixels elsewhere. You cannot be doing that. Only game to ever pull off pixels off is Stardew Valley. I still haven't played Stardew Valley, but we'd have to see. Because, like, there's also the element of not so much changed pixel densities, but, like, there are definitely games where everything is pixelated, but the pixels are large enough that when you move around, the pixels don't stay lined up, which is also a thing that tends to, like, set my teeth on edge a little bit. Like, oh, I've made a Zelda-like game, and every pixel in the game is actually a 3x3 square of normal pixels. And when I move, I could be, stopping myself between the large pixels because that's where real pixels are. It's like, oh, so you've got thirds of pixels overlapping and stuff? It's like, We'll just rotate a sprite like it's been tweened in an animation software. Oh, okay. That doesn't bother me super much. And to a certain extent, we've seen that in other things before. Like the Game Boy Advance did that a lot. They learned they realized they could do sprite rotations, and they were like, we're gonna do this in every fucking game ever. All the jank of a pixel art indie game with the lack of focus of AAA for Dave the Diver. Really? Ooh, that's pretty rough. I did not know that. No. Rotated at full HD resolution. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Huh. I'd have to see how that looks to get my head around it, but I don't know how I feel about that one as much. I mean, it's basically just a cleaner look at that point, which I think I'm okay with. My big thing is square pixels that are staying square and at right angles, but they're just weird non-integer scaled ratios. You see that in a lot of zero budget indie games and like old Flash games and stuff, and it drives me fucking berserk. It's like, nope, don't like that. It makes my brain itch. Do not do. But yeah, I think sometimes about, like, this just brings me back to thinking about, like, my Pokemon fan game thing that I've tossed around in my head before, where I don't know, I would love to see. It's getting rare now that Godot and other free game engines can do virtual resolution stuff. That's pretty cool. That's very good. Because honestly, once upon a time I built in pure, like, just in JavaScript, like. I built Pallet Town, essentially, and made it so that you could, like, walk on the grid pattern, and I think I lined it up in a way where, like, the speed was exactly the same and stuff like that, but, like, it's, like, I had to be very careful of the exact sizes I did for things, because if you were off by anything, then it would be noticeably, like, weird stretching or weird, like, pixel overlaps and stuff. But I do like the idea of virtual resolutions because it just takes all the guesswork out of that. You're like, nope, it doesn't matter what the screen is. This is a 256 by 240 game, or a 256 by, or a 256 by a 224 by 240 game, or whatever, what have you. We're like, yep, everything else it'll scale either automatically or by integers, but otherwise everything is running off of that. It's like, oh, that's cool. Man, one of the things I'm really looking forward to also, once I get back from Scotland, is, well, for one, I'm not going to have any major event stuff for a good 2 or 3 months. But also, like, we're going to be getting back into some of our stuff that's been on hiatus. It'll be nice to kind of get back into the groove with things. But so yeah, SN, because I'm trying to remember. Because the NES, so N64 and GameCube, but not in widescreen mode, are properly 4x3. The NES and the SNES and the Game Boy, for that matter, are not. They are not 4x3, and if you're ever displaying them in 4x3, you are stretching those pixels, which is why for the D-pad unpaused, for example, the Mega Let's Play, the Mega Man uploads on D-pad unpaused are narrower than the uploads on the main channel because I corrected the resolution to be the actual, like, resolution that's there. I want to say that the NES is 9x8. I think it's 9x8. And like the SNES might be like 10 by 9 or something. Like, it's weird. They both do some weird stuff. The Game Boy might actually be 4 by 3. I'm trying to remember now. That one might be 4 by 3. The NES is very, very close to 1-to-1. Which is why I'm like, I think it's 9. It's either 9 to 8 or 10 to 9. SNES has squish pixels that are 7 to 8. Okay, which gives the stupid ratio of 21 to 32 or something. Yeah, it'd be 28 to 32 for that. But yeah, 7 to 8. Because let's see, because that would be 32. So yeah, that'd be 224 by 256. Or vice versa. Because it is slightly wider than it is tall. I don't think any, other than like a Wonder Swan being held sideways, I don't think any of these systems are taller than they are wide. But it would have been like, yeah, 256 by 224, I think. And I want to say the NES is 256 by 240, mostly because they have an overscan row, which you're sort of not necessarily supposed to display as an accurate representation of the NES. It's a little bit, some games do them differently than others. To properly emulate SNES games, you need a 4K display, or else you have to use square pixels. Yeah, so yeah, and that's part of why when I do, for example, it's similar, I guess, to why when I do DS and 3DS footage, sometimes the video is much larger than 1080p. I want to say for DS games, the resolution is the height of those videos, like Star Force 3, for example, I think is 1152 pixels, because I am multiplying, because that's one screen multiplied by 6. Because what would that be? That'd be 192. I think it's 192 pixels tall, 192 rows for a DS screen. And I wanted the video to be at least 1080p. And 1152 is close enough to 1080p that it's not like a highly awkward resolution. For the 3DS, I usually go a little bit further with that. And I want to say I usually multiply the 3DS screens by 9. Because then I think that gives us exactly 4K resolution. Because I want to say the 3DS screens are 240 rows. And it would either be, all right, if we're going to do a 1080p screen, we got to multiply by 4.5, which isn't good. But if I do it by 9, that gives us square pixels, and it gives us an exact 4K output, which is pretty nice. Why all SNES spreadsheets for stuff look a little off? Yeah, NES and SNES. If you're used to like a squat fat Mega Man, it's probably because you've played an emulated version, or on a TV that just stretched it across, an emulated version of like a Mega Man game where the settings were set to just 4:3 for everything. I want to say the Genesis did just go 4:3. I don't think the Genesis did anything weird resolution-wise. I don't recall off the top of my head, though. The Game Gear definitely does a couple weird things in there, but I think that's just also the way that it displayed its colors meant that the sprites were just fat. Because Game Gear definitely has fat sprites, too. But yeah, it's so interesting to look at that stuff, too. And then on the like, that's the video side. On the audio side, you got the fascinating way that NTSC and PAL affected how video games sound. Because you wind up with, I want to say in PAL regions, because of the different frame rate, music sounds... Is it... I'm trying to remember if it's... I think the music sounds slower and lower. Like, it sounds slower speed-wise because it takes 1.2 seconds to, perform the same video and audio that an NTSC screen does in 1 second, because 60 frames versus 50. But also, the audio would do the same thing. So you definitely get a lot of folks who, in PAL regions are very used to versions of the music in their games being slower and lower pitched as a result. The NES's palette sucks. There's no real yellow. There's one shade of neutral blue. There's one shade of brown, one shade of orange, 7 purples. Yeah, I've tried to work with NES palettes in the past for things, and it's really fucking aggravating to get anything that resembles real NES capability palettes, because it's here's 1,000 different dark grays and blacks. But if you want if you want brown, there's basically one. There isn't even a beige-ish color, which, as someone with brown hair who is trying to figure out a clever way to shade my sprite for my Mega Man sprite, that was pretty annoying. Yeah, Shovel Knight, they talked about that their game is essentially NES ready with 2 shades that they added. I think there was a purple that they added. I think. They might have added a pink also. I'm trying to remember, but they added 1 or 2 hues that are not NES capable. Because it was just too fucking limiting. True purple and a beige. Yeah, that makes sense. Beige is just a very useful color. There's a lot of stuff that is beige, and it's really hard to substitute that with oranges and mustard yellows and browns, darker browns. So a beige is just, if you're doing a wood texture, it's really hard to get that right without, beige. Every display interprets the colors slightly differently, so everyone will bitch that it looks off, even if you grab the palette directly from a cycle-accurate emulator. Yeah, that's another one, too. I've gone looking for NES palettes before, and then discovered, oh, this is where I saved the NES palette to last time, and then I'll look and realize that the 2 palettes I've got are different colors. And it's how? How does that even happen? It's frustrating. There's kind of no winning. Man. Is that a car? I don't think it is. Oh, man. It's going to be interesting. I'm hoping that I can get some decent sleep tonight. I hope I can get a lot of sleep tomorrow. And then Thursday, I think as soon as the Mario Party Madness 99 turn game is over, I'm basically going directly to bed because we're leaving the house Friday late afternoon to go take an intercontinental flight. And we're going to be fucking dead to the world if we've been sleeping terribly. Pal turns one of the grays into white because fuck you, that's why. Oh, great. Even in NTSC, there's 2 nearly identical whites. Yup. Definitely run into that. That's been confusing. There's 7 different black colors in there too, aren't there? Or one of them is actually black and the other 6 are code black, where it renders as black, but it's actually instruction data or something. It's weird. I mean, granted, they had to perform fucking magic to make that shit work on TVs in the first place. Whereas nowadays, you just have a proper, video signal type deal, but even still. That's actually something I've been wondering about is, what is the future of video in the sense of, devices going to be? Because, 8K is kind of on the horizon, and we have 120 hertz monitors and TVs. Like, technically, the TV that I'm playing this on right now, it is a 4K TV. It can do 4K 60. It can also do 1080p 120 frames. But, like, once we've got, like, I don't think that 8K does not strike me as super necessary or something that we would, like, notice in a major way. Like, I'm sure it'd be noticeable in the sense of, like, oh, curves are much smoother. But, like, as far as, like, I feel like we're reaching the end of the resolution race. And, like, the frame rate side of things, I think we'll probably, like, I'm sure resolutions will keep getting higher. I'm sure frame rates will keep getting higher, too. My guess would be that at the end of the day, the idea would be that frame rates will keep jumping by a lot, but essentially what's using the screen will either dictate the frame rate it wants to use, or it would hypothetically just mean that they stop caring about the specific frame rates, and you go, okay, this is a screen that's got 4,000 frames per second, which means if we do this motion on there, we don't have to worry about, like, the keyframes in the middle, because, like, there's so many goddamn frames in there that it'll just kind of smooth itself out and do whatever. Or, this can be in sevenths and it doesn't matter because it'll be off by 1 frame for you know, such a small period of time that the eye doesn't even perceive it or whatever. One is black, one copies a solid color background, the rest are technically out of bounds, so the console never uses that data anyways. Okay. Rollable screens, every show and game will have its own aspect ratio. Ugh. Yikes. Rollable screens are, like, interesting, but I don't know. They're neat from a technological, like, ooh, that's cool standpoint, and, like, curved monitors and things. But, like, rollable screens feels, I don't know. It feels like a thing that was like, okay, why? LG made a rollable phone but closed their mobile division before it released. Hilarious. HFR and HDR will become standard? Probably, yeah. If they do, they really got to catch up on... Companies really got to catch up on, like, capture device standpoints, because, like, our Elgato is capable of handling HDR, but, like, the monitor I use is really not very good at it. I had a curved monitor that could do it. That was a hand-me-down from John until it broke during the move. But, like, if HDR is going to become the standard, it really needs to become the standard. Like, everything needs to be able to handle it, or else you won't be able to watch HDR stuff. Like, it just won't work. It's really going to need to be a similar paradigm shift to, like, analog to digital. The Switch 2 also sucks at HDR, and there's no real standard. Yeah, like, there needs to be an ISO-type standard, and it needs to be handled with, like, a great deal of, like, transition-type, care. Like, the math is different on different kinds of displays. Yeah. Like, that's the thing, is there needs to be an effort now to start standardizing that, or it'll be a self-inflicted, stall. PC gaming is arguably 120, 144 FPS standard these days. I guess that's fair, yeah. There's a 5 or 6 multiplier on like, filmic 24 frames. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. It's so interesting, too, as someone who grew up in the 90s where, like, for video games, we had, like, the bit wars, right, of, like, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. And then when we moved to disc-based systems, that kind of fell off the, like, common vernacular. And then on the TV side, we had that, too, because it was like, oh, there were black and white TVs, there was analog signal, digital signal, standard def, widescreen, HD... And then you got to, like, Ultra HD, 4K type stuff. And it's like, okay, all right, 8K. But, like, again, it feels like we've reached a point where that stuff doesn't matter as much anymore. Or, like, advancements in those fields will matter a lot less. HDR will be the end of IPS displays because there are guidelines for HDR on IPS, but no one has ever released an IPS display with an even remotely good HDR. It's all OLED. Ooh. I'm not familiar with IPS display. Man, yeah. It definitely feels like the answer is ultimately that they really need to just, like, figure out the standard and start enforcing that. And then it'll be there'll be a means of like buttoning that down a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because it's like, all right, so like hell, I guess video games still have a bit more runway to go in terms of like, oh, well, what are they going to focus on? Not that they should necessarily be focusing on graphics, because like nothing has been more annoying recently than the hyper fixation on like super detailed graphics. Like, we played a little bit of Resident Evil Requiem, and like Grace's hair looks a little bit rough, and it's like, it's not like a problem. It's just kind of like, oh, I would have figured it would look better, but like that's fine. If anything, it gives it a little bit of a style to it because it does feel evocative of other Resident Evil games. But like the fixation on like, oh, we now have like this perfect skin texture that refracts light, like a subdermal refraction thing, so that this freckle actually looks a little, and like it's neat technologically, but if it means that games don't run right on systems, like that's, less interesting. I wish I could find the image that was getting memed on for a while of Sony was so proud, and they put out that grid of like 2x2 of super close-ups on the eyeball of characters from 4 of their games. One of them was Aloy. I forget the other 3. But like, was it technologically impressive? Sure. But everybody was responding to it being like, who cares though? Like, just make the fucking game good and release it on time. This gen is all about lighting and reflection mapping. Okay, so like ray tracing type, field. That's generally particle effects and physics simulation, I'm calling it now. I'd be a little surprised with physics simulation, but I could see particle effects just because that's still a bit of an Achilles heel for some of these games and systems. 30 FPS will still be the console standard because optimization is for chumps and suckers. That one really bums me out because, like, I think on the one hand, the more dramatic games probably look a little better when they have, like, at least their cutscenes in a lower frame rate. But when you're playing the actual game, I kind of like my 60 frames. I don't want 120 frames, because then it looks, like, creepy how fluid it is. But I don't know. It bothers me when games can't run at 60 frames. Because, like, we've had decades to start sorting some of this stuff out, and we're still like, 30's fine. It's like, sure, but I don't know, it's less impressive, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a big weenie. I wonder if we can get to 50 XP per minute. We've been slowly climbing this whole stream. I don't know, we'll have to see. I'm also probably gonna order myself some food. We didn't do like dinner things tonight. I was snacking on stuff earlier because my brain hurts. Sarah was taking a nap, and we both just kind of like blurp. So I was like, what do we got for like late night fare out there? Release of the 6th gen should have been the end of 30 FPS gaming. 6th gen was what, GameCube era? GameCube, PS2, Xbox? Or was that 5th gen? Because was NES 2nd or 3rd gen? Yeah, okay, yeah. The two, essentially the water era. The Aqua Lounge era. Yeah, once we had consoles that were able to handle widescreen and even in some cases HD, 30 FPS should have been done. That should have been it. But they held on to it for so long, and now we're stuck with it 25 years later. It's not like the end of the world frame rate wise, but like I can see the difference. Some games handle it in a way where it's not very noticeable or not much of a thing. Other games you can definitely see, like when there's a lot of stuff moving around, it's like, ooh, Yeah, 1 is Magnavox, Gen 2 is Intellivision, ColecoVision. Yeah, okay. I guess, yeah, the major difference would be the games that the games that had their own weird way of handling individual games versus Gen 2 being the ones that had actual cartridges. And then Gen 3 would have been like NES, I guess Master System? Yeah, Master System, which itself was the third SG console. What am I missing? There's another one from that era as well. I guess you could make an argument for like Atari 7800 maybe. It wasn't like a huge advancement off the 2600, but like it'd probably count. And then you get into the 4th gen, and there's like 1,000 fucking things. You get the FM Towns Marty. Minecraft is always running at 20 FPS in the background and interpolate things like movement for higher visuals. Oh, that's fun. It's probably a smart way of doing that. Yeah. Probably does that. It probably makes sense to do that in terms of that way you never have to worry much about performance in the sense of like if you're playing online with someone else, you don't have to worry about like lag and stuff if you're essentially running your ticks at a low enough frame rate that it can still figure that shit out on the fly. It also just generally takes some of the load off in terms of like memory and stuff if it's only doing 20 real things per second. Holy cow. Meow. So we're definitely at least going to get to level 28. We'll see about level 29. I at least also think I want to get to 1,000 fights. Redstone is supposed to run at half that again, but there are glitches to get redstone timing onto non-redstone ticks that are used all the time. Ugh. Interesting. I'm fascinated by the folks who have built computers in Minecraft. And it's so funny because it's like, it's the same base principles that resulted in the first computers when they were basically just big calculators. But like, my brain just cannot fit that information into it. Like, I just have a hard time following how that works. I've never been much of an electrical engineer. So that side of things is always a little bit confusing to me anyway. What's it going to be this time? Are we fighting a Pidgey? Oh no, it's a Rattata. My brother. How could you do this to me? Whoops, tap the thing. Love the way data storage is done, either with old-fashioned repeater locking or by using barrels and comparators. Oh, that's an interesting way. Yeah, by putting something physically in the way, it prevents a bit from being changed. That's interesting. That makes sense. Trying to order... Whoops, damn it. Trying to do that while also keeping this going is an interesting process. Oh, damn it. And I missed too? That's great. I got with that one though. Okay, now it's time for a quick attack. Oh, I should try to see if I can properly switch these, actually. Can I do it on here? I can. Let's see. Oh! Nope. I didn't think that was how that was going to work. So I guess it's select twice then? Hey! That's cool. My overlay works. I didn't know if that was going to work correctly or not, which is why I didn't do it last time. That's fun. I wasn't 100% sure that was gonna do what it was supposed to. It's always a nice surprise when you build something and it just happens to work the way you wanted it to. The most complicated redstone thing I've ever designed myself is an auto tree farm, so I'm not any kind of computational redstone expert or even a farming expert for that matter. All right. And when you say an auto tree farm, is it one that plants and harvests, like chops down and harvests materials from trees automatically? That's what that sounds like, but I don't know if that's accurate. Do do do. Blam. Okay. Okay. Whoops. Keeping all this going, yeah. Okay. So many options. What do I pick? Sure, we'll go with that. Why not? All right. You have to plant the sapling. Hey, level 28. We got it. There's no way to do that auto, but you use fertilizer to grow it, pistons to push the logs out of your way so you can plant another one, and a TNT duper to break the logs. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Well. Whoops, damn it. Huzzah. Boop, boop, boop. Oh man, I'm looking forward to the first one of these things that I can do where I'm not like horribly sleep deprived coming into it. Because I think all three of these streams have been like at weird times, like on weird days where I've been like a wreck trying to make it work, which is funny, but not great for my brain. But it is alright. That's just the way it goes sometimes. There we go. Okay. I still have never really played Minecraft. I have played it before, but I think it was legit for like maybe 30 minutes a very long time ago, and that was it. I haven't really touched it since. Clearly, that's what's got to be the 2000th video when that, the 2000th game when that comes around. The craziest redstone thing I've ever seen is a friend of mine who managed to desync a fishing rod using a portal to hell, and a complicated machine that teleported him back to his base whenever he cast the desynced rod, plus a simple version you could set up anywhere in seconds. Okay. Interesting. So just a hard teleport that was like locked into the fishing rod. That's kind of interesting. So that's a wild way of making that work. Whoop. There we go. Our new couch has rounded armrests, so it's a little bit tougher for me to put stuff down quickly. There you go. Do, 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 do. Well, we've crossed over 49.5 XP per minute average. 50 is going to be tough. I don't know if we can actually get to 50. So you avoid comments like a proper like start a new seed of Minecraft and get all the way to what the Ender Dragon. I don't know a lot of what's in between other than there's creepers and zombies. And you need to build a portal. And then eventually there's the Ender Dragon. It's kind of all I've got, though. Do not know much else beyond that. I think you beat the game without too much difficulty with exactly 2 pieces of instruction. What, like how to build a pickaxe and the actual construction of a portal? I know that to build a portal, you need a fairly specific set of stuff in a specific set of, like, in the way that it's laid out, but might not be quickly, and you would have to suss out every mechanic, but you could do it. All right. The biggest bummer would be sussing stuff out in a way where experimenting with stuff wastes it, you know? Which I think is ultimately going to be part of it, but... Alright, let's do it! Wow. Okay. Where's my Frosty? There's a Frosty. Ordering from Wendy's. It's happening. Ba-doop-ba-doop. Okay. 2 pieces of info is that the achievements menu is bound to L. Oh, and that is a list of things you can do in the game, and that mashing the attack button kills your DPS. Oh, interesting. In the sense that it misses inputs, or the sense that it does actually penalize you for just mashing on it? Missing inputs isn't really what I mean, but like, in the sense that like your attack is only so long, or your attack is a certain length, and if you hit it again during that, then you're going to be not getting the input because you're still in the middle of your attack or something. You can actually do 1 damage per attack. Oh, interesting. So it mechanically punishes you for it. That's interesting. Also, hello, Sea Dude. Hello, hello. Howdy, howdy, howdy. How is it going? Quick attack. Alright. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay. Getting up in the ballpark of 49.6. Maybe we can do this tonight. Maybe we can hit 50 tonight. It's a bit of a tall order, but like not necessarily impossible. Come on. Rat friends. Rat friends. Going along hitting all of our rat friends. Oh, we got through our first row of Raticates. I didn't even realize. So we did our first 9, 20 to 28. Alright. That was the single most controversial change in the entire game's history. And I would estimate that about 10% of the Minecraft community still plays a 12-year-old version of the game because they hate the attack cooldown. That's funny. It's different. I assumed it'd be like PSO will just stop your attacks if you don't... That was kind of what I was thinking, was like, if you hit it too fast, are you hitting in the middle of your animation and so it just doesn't accept the input? How was the anniversary stream? It was good. It was long. I'm still sleep deprived from it. I have not fully recovered yet. We had a good time. We started a bit late, which, like, duh, but we were catching up here and there, and then the archipelago ran several more hours than we were anticipating. We were estimating and aiming for, like, a 6 to 8 hour archipelago, and I think when we finally broke away from it, we were in the ballpark of 10 hours. After which point we did U-Game, which we should have done much earlier when people were a little bit more alert and alive. Also, I love my team very much, but also some folks on the D-pad are not good at following instructions and being on a game show. But it was still a good time. In Bedrock Edition, if you attack during your previous animation, it does literally nothing, but still takes your sword's durability, which is a worse system, although the combat is quicker. Was Factorio the breakpoint for that? I've heard that's a menace for APs. Yeah, I would say Factorio was the biggest one, but not the only one. Evil Hippie did ultimately finish his Factorio run. Like, he got it set up and let it run on its own, and then took a nap and got up to finish. And the final time there was probably around 16 hours. Sorry, not 16. No, yeah, actually, I guess 16. Yeah, about 16 hours. But also Stardew Valley wound up being kind of a chunky one. Dave wound up having to do a lot more fishing than he was really anticipating, and that really did slow things down. And Siege just got a really unlucky seed in Castlevania 64, and he was like straight up locked out and BK'd for like a good 3+ hours. And one of his very necessary keys was like super, super late game in Stardew Valley. Jeff would definitely have been better at trivia if he was not delirious from no sleep. I would say that's probably true. I think Dave's might just not be good at it. Maybe. It's also just a matter of like, I don't tailor the questions to the participants. We did a little bit during the PAX panel one, just because I was trying to, have it be kind of a strong first impression there. Some of the questions that turned up in this version were written years ago when we were originally pitching a second attempt at it that ever went up. So like the Trent Reznor one, for example, like that was not written with CJ in mind. That was written years ago. CJ just happened to know it off the top of his head. I believe that's one that the Madness crew also got correct. Stardew Valley is like 20% fishing checks. Like half of those aren't in the first season. Yeah. There was a lot of that going on. Let's see. I believe Jeff was the first out. What was he playing? He was playing Civ 6. He got a lot of really good upgrades really early. After that, I want to say it was Sarah with XCOM 2. After that, I think was me with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, which I would have been. So mine was in the my final time was like 7-ish hours, I think, and I would have been done sooner. Except so my go mode was I needed lucky emblems, and the default was 10. And if I left it alone and nothing else changed, then I would have been out like 2-3 hours earlier. I set it to 13 to be cute, but I gave it a pool of 20. So it wasn't that I needed all of them. It was just, all right, I need a decent number of them. And I got to 11 at one point around like 4 or 5 hours, and then it just hit like a desert after a certain point. And there were 2 of them in CJ's game, like right next to each other, but they were behind a locked door that he needed something to get through to get at. So, like, it was just kind of one of those chain reaction type things. I got very lucky, though, in the sense that I got high jump pretty early. Sarah got me glide quite early. And then I just kept getting more high jumps and more glides. Like, I wound up with a triple high jump and a double super glide. I don't know if super glide actually stacks. It didn't look like it did. I don't know if I was missing something there. High jumps do. I was literally clearing loading screens that you're meant to climb ladders by just jumping. That was fun. Did we also learn something about games that are and aren't good for multi-game randomizers? Yeah, Teddy was even saying that like he realized early on and was even thinking about that like maybe Factorio was not the best call for that, just because of the nature of it. Less to do with like the number of checks or anything, but just the fact that in Factorio you have to wait for stuff to happen. Stardew Valley seems rough unless you specifically tailor the YAML file to like reduce the fishing by a certain amount. I would say the other 5 all work reasonably well. Range from reasonably well to very well. I think Kingdom Hearts is like fucking perfect for it. What was the other game? The other game was Sanchez? What was Sanchez? Oh, Sanchez was playing Super Metroid. Super Metroid is also like A+ rando game, I think. XCOM 2 and Civ, I think, are generally okay. I think they have a bit... The biggest issue with them as randos is that like with the right combination of checks early on, it seems like you can just walk through the game. I don't know either of them all that well, though, so I could be misreading that completely. On the flip side, you get Stardew and Factorio, which seem like they're just brutally long. And, like, if we were doing this as a series of streams that we did over a couple weeks or something, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. But doing that as, like, a kind of micro thing, it didn't really work super well. Castlevania 64, I'm willing to believe, is honestly fine for randos. I think CJ just got really, really unlucky. Because he got a lot of progress done, and then he was like, okay, the only things that I can do left are, like, behind this locked door. And that was, like, the big limiting factor there. But yeah, I would say that the ones that fit the best for, like, a 6 to 8 hour thing with that cluster were, I think, Kingdom Hearts, Super Metroid, and Castlevania 64 all work fine. Factorio and Stardew Valley, I think, are probably too long. Civ 6 and XCOM are, like, a little wobblier, but I think they're okay-ish for that. Yeah, Balatro does have AP support because... so when I did the 40th anniversary Zelda multi-world randomizer, there was also one in January with that group of people. They've been doing a monthly thing. There was a January one they did that didn't have any real, like, didn't have, like, a theme, didn't have any major rules. And I was actually planning on doing Balatro for it, and then I just bailed because I was like, I am actually feeling under the weather, and rather than pushing this, I should probably just cut my losses and not do this, and I'll join in for the Zelda one in the next month. Which I think was the right call. And I may do a Balatro one for one of those in the future. Let's see. Fishing Connects will be really quick if you're starting to freak like me. Nice. Interesting how the Metroidvanias were good for randomizers. How about that? Yeah, right? It's almost like they're structured in a way that meshes really well with randomizers. I think for Stardew Valley, the only thing you'd have to block of is Ginger Island. Yeah, that was a huge stopping point for Dave, if I recall correctly. Ginger Island was like a big thing that really got in the way there. Before Ginger Island was added, 100% speedruns were only like 12 hours. Most of that was the polyculture achievement. Okay, all right. But yeah, there was a point in time early on where we were like, should we do one archipelago or two? And if we were going to do two, the first one we were going to be a little bit stricter on the time and probably try to reduce longer ones. The second one I was debating was like, okay, what if the second one is smaller games even still, and also we see, and you know, when we advertise, you know, the stream or whatever, we get folks on the Discord who want to join in there as well. And it's just like this one would have a hard time limit, and I would have the ability to release checks as need be or whatever. It didn't wind up coming to fruition. There was definitely no time for it, but be interested to do one of those at some point as well. And I know that on the server there's been some multi-world stuff going on too, so we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll do something weird for Sonic Week this year that involves randomizers. Today is the day that all of humanity becomes immortal and infertile in John Boyce's 17776. Oh, is that today? Dang. I have not read 17776 in a while. It's an interesting read. It's a very experimental sort of just vibe throughout that. I have not read the sequel either, the 20020. But I do want to at some point. Does 20020 exist within the same universe as 17776? Disappointed that 20021 didn't happen, yeah. Same universe, yeah. Okay, interesting. It's fascinating because, like, that does carry the implication of that we've now got this thing 20020 where in their history there's like 15,000 years of football. So that'll be interesting. I guess closer to 16,000, really. Or is the idea that, like, those games are still occurring and stuff didn't... I guess there was no incentive or impetus or anything for that stuff to change, so presumably another, 2,300 years of football happened. man. $49.78. I'll be very happy if we can cross 50 XP per minute. Just because of number go up. I really like the football game that is followed as part of 2020. Okay, nice. Because I want to say 17.776 didn't really focus on one. It didn't even focus on one storyline, but it didn't really focus on one game either. Tried to read Homestuck recently. In the first chapter, I clicked on a random background object and read 1,000 pages of an unrelated story, not realizing I clicked on a link to one of the author's other works. Oh, did you wind up accidentally jumping into Crime Sleuth instead? Because that was my introduction to all of that, was someone had mentioned something about it, and I went in there, and then, yeah, I think I read all of Crime Sleuth, and I was like, okay. Was that Homestuck? I'm so confused. But yeah, I also clicked on a random thing. Isn't it like the computer or something? I'm trying to remember what the deal was there. There was a point in time where I debated definitely other games that are part of 2020, but the single game is a consistent through line. Okay. Oh, the bookshelf. Oh, yeah, that's right. There was a point in time where I was debating doing a video essay that is essentially an extended review. Not really a review. I guess like somewhere between a review and a reaction to... Oh, sorry, Problem Sleuth. Yeah. To Homestuck. And one... Oh, my God. Whoa, Shell. Hello. Welcome. Howdy. Shell rating with a party of 13. Holy shit. Welcome. How's it going, Nova? Hello. Fortunately, as well, you did 3 games. Holy shit. Dang. That's a hell of a night. I'm trying to remember. Were you there for... I'm trying to remember who was in we had a silly nickname for the board. We called it like the gender board or something, but like, which is in fact, that's true. That's true. We got shell-shocked with a prime number of people. Need to watch the VOD. Excellent. Please let me know the pronoun. Oh, Pronoun Paradise. That's what it was. Yes. That's right. Yes, it's so funny because I want to say when we did that was the second game of the night, wasn't it? Like we had a first game that lasted like less than an hour, and we were like, oh, well, let's do another one then. I think it's technically like Zapato's Sigil or something. Zapata's Sigil, but Pronoun Paradise is a much funnier name for it. But yeah, hello to the folks that are jumping in here. I don't know how many folks are familiar with me or not, but my name is Rick. I run a channel called The D-Pad. Usually I have a face cam for this, but my entire recording setup has been upended 3 or 4 separate times over the last 2 weeks. I brought everything with me to Boston for PAX last weekend. It's kind of amazing to think about the fact that was like less than a week and a half ago. I came home, set up the very basics so I could do editing and streaming, and then brought it upstairs, my entire setup, so we could have our 15th anniversary marathon stream this past weekend, Friday into Saturday. Supposed to be 24 plus hours. I think we did 26, 27. But yeah, the D-Pad is, strictly speaking, a variety channel. We usually tend to lean more into the retro stuff, but we kind of bounce around a bunch. Our big thing is franchise plays. We play a handful of franchises from start to finish, essentially, exploring how they ebb and flow and all that jazz. We've done The Legend of Zelda. We've sort of done Pokemon. We've done Kirby. We're in the middle of Sonic. We are pretty much at the end of Mega Man. What else am I missing? Kingdom Hearts. We're getting close to the end of Kingdom Hearts. Resident Evil, we're also approaching. The only ones that we're really missing that we're planning on doing are like Resident Evil 5, 6, and Requiem. I know I'm missing one more. Whoops. I forget. D-Pad was mostly Mario Party streams for a second there. not mostly, but like half, right? Because those will usually be on Monday nights. But yeah, no, I've done a bunch of those. I'm in a bunch of Mario Party Madness things. Should name the patches of grass on Route 1. That's a good idea, actually. In the same way as this is going to lead into a tangent, but we'll start with in the same way as like Top Gear, how all the turns on their racetrack had names over time. Gambon Curve, Gambon. I'm never entirely sure how to pronounce Michael Gambon's name. But yeah, we need some names for these. This one reminds me of the S piece in Tetris, but that feels a little on the nose. The tangent, Wilson from Castaway. Oh, as things to name, as inanimate objects and things to name. I see. And to inform people who may not know what the fuck I'm doing here, I decided a year ago, and then a year passed, and I got back into it recently. I decided to engage in possibly the dumbest imaginable way to play Pokemon, which is I am functionally embodying Youngster Joey, inspired by Circle Magic, and I hope I'm getting it right this time because I got it wrong the first time I mentioned. I think I called him Circle Wizard. I'm probably wrong with Circle Magic too. Like I'm so tired every time I do these, but I'm not wearing comfy shorts right now. I'm wearing comfy pants because it is still a little chilly out. But as we get into the summer, I'll definitely be wearing comfy shorts. I did have a shirt made that matches the art that I use for the thumbnails, courtesy of Arrow Artwork, who has done work on Undertale Yellow. And actually, the stream overlay that we used as a generic stream overlay for years was also an Arrow Artwork production, which is pretty cool. The first patch is the one where Professor Oak yells at you and yelling gives you Pikachu, so maybe something like Electric Avenue. Oh, Electric Avenue is a good one there. And then we'll take it higher because we're walking north, which looks like up. But so what I was going to say as a tangent, though, is, man, I feel like I've got such a complicated set of feelings about Top Gear at this point, and just that crew. Because I don't know, time has passed. I wasn't horribly bothered by the stuff that happened with like Jeremy Clarkson and his producer. That sounds like it was just a bad day that got out of hand, and both of the guys involved in that were kind of like, this isn't a big deal, but the studio is freaking out, so now it's becoming a big deal type thing. But more to do with like Jeremy Clarkson as a person. It just kind of makes me a little sad because, like, I don't know, I was a huge Top Gear fan. I didn't get as into the Grand Tour. Just the format didn't really work for me as well. I thought they kind of, some of the jokes that they worked with just weren't very good, in my opinion. They're like, oh, so they're not coming on yet? Then it was just like, okay, we've played this out way too many times. We can be done with this, please. But like the specials that they used to do were like some of my favorite television. I've forgotten the specific countries that they did, but like they did one or two that were like driving across Africa. I think they did one that was basically driving across like Europe. There was the one they did, whichever one had Oliver the Opal Cadet, might be the best one. And I'm trying to remember what they called it. Damn it. But, like, it was a fun show, but also, one, definitely some evidence of, like, you know, scripting stuff for interesting, like, dramatic things, which, like, that, you know, that's just TV, but then it's just like, I don't know, some of the stuff Jeremy Clarkson's talked about since then makes me sad. He's like, oh, he's very much like a British guy in his, like, 60s or whatever. Then Clarkson write an opinion piece about drivers should always be able to run over cyclists. Crazy thing to say for a person that lives in London, a city that would choke and die in gridlock without their substantial cyclist population. Yeah, no, he's written a lot of opinion pieces about some pretty stupid things. That one was a very stupid one. Like, that was kind of, even for him, that was kind of like, what are you fucking doing, man? Literally, he probably almost hit a cyclist on his way on his way home one day that week and decided that was going to be his focus for that. And it's just like, okay, man, sure. If you like classic Top Gear specials, you should go Road Quest on YouTube. Okay. 12-part series following a Canadian group. Oh, Loading Ready Run. I'm familiar with them. Traveling north through Canada. Oh, okay. Interesting. That'll be very interesting. Road Quest. All right, I'll have to remember that. Okay. But yeah, just before I forget about it, because I didn't actually finish my explanation before, I am on a quest to raise a Rattata that I've named STRATS from, we caught it at level 3. We're raising it to level 100 before we advance beyond Route 1. So our game, we got our starter. We got a Squirtle, whose name I've forgotten. We caught a Rattata. Like, we delivered Oak's parcel, we caught a Rattata, and then we went to the Pokemon Center, or maybe it was Oak's PC, like in his lab, and we released Squirtle. And so now we're here, and we are getting this Rattata to level 100 before we advance beyond Route 1. Because that's the only way to guarantee this guy's in the top percent, is to at least make him in the top percent of levels. I'm pretty sure he lives in Kensington, which interrupted the big London cycling route and dumps every cyclist crossing town onto random suburban streets. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sounds lovely. I did release Squirtle. And I want to say the reason I grabbed Squirtle is because for Fire Red, when I played it on the channel, I used Charmander as my starter. Clover. I've done a Pokemon Yellow. Hey, 50! We got it! 50 experience per minute average. I did do a Pokemon Yellow Nuzlocke over the span of a few years as a periodical thing. So I've done Pikachu as a starter. And when I was a kid growing up, I usually grabbed Bulbasaur as my starter when playing Pokemon Blue. So Squirtle was the one that I had never really used myself as a starter. So I was like, oh, this will be an appropriate thing. I'll just grab Squirtle and it'll be good to go. But yeah, so we've been at this for a little under 8 hours. Strats is at level 28, late level 28. We're about 25 battles, give or take, from level 29. And I've got a whole bunch of math going on the bottom there. All of that stuff is being driven by a Lewis script that is getting triggered by stuff that occurs in the game. So you can see crazy stuff. I keep looking at the Cacnea like it's an actual face cam. That's good. That's good. It means it's effective. For anybody who's not aware, I occasionally use Cacnea as a stand-in for myself whenever I don't have face cam for one reason or another. I keep meaning to like actually put together some kind of little like VTuber or PingTuber type rig for it, but every overlay is a little different, and every overlay has a different looking Cacnea, so it's probably more work than it's worth. But yeah, we got all sorts of stuff on the bottom there. Tonight we crossed 1,000 battles, and we probably have about 43,000 left to go. We are getting into about 130 fights per hour. Oh, we should get a Cacnea mode for Twitch. That's actually a really good idea. I'll have to remember that for later too. Or I guess about 42,000 fights left. But yeah, we're doing about 130 fights per hour. We're averaging 50 experience points per minute. Our average experience per fight is a little bit under the expected experience per fight, and that is mathematically sound. That is like average of like the number of steps and average of which Pokemon and which levels you can get, because it's like an encounter table. In this one, there's not a lot of like extra math happening. It's just here are your like 6 possible things, and there's like dupes and stuff. But the most important thing is that bottom left figure, which updates every second based off how much experience we have over the entire run that we've done so far. And based off of this, we have approximately 325 hours left to go. If you want a little quick math, I should head back. Oh no, I have Hyperfang still. So Rattata uses, I think it's the most common leveling formula. I think it's medium slow. I'm trying to remember which one it is. Medium slow or medium fast? I think it's medium slow. Which means that each level medium slow. Okay. Each level, the experience needed to reach a given level is equal to that level number cubed. So, for example, a level 10 Pokemon on the medium slow curve requires 10 cubed or 1,000 experience points. Which also means that to get to level 100, you would need 100 cubed, which is 1 million experience points. Because this is, it's technically not exponential growth. I think it would be referred to as polynomial growth or geometric growth. Actually, no, it wouldn't be geometric growth. Maybe it would be. But anyway, the point being, because of that, each level obviously takes a lot longer than the previous level, and the rate at which that grows also grows. So what we wind up with is a fascinating little quirk of math where level 50 is not halfway to level 100. Level 80 is halfway to 100. Because to get to level 80 would require 512,000 experience points, which is just a little bit over half. So even though it's 80 and it feels like you're just about there, you are in fact halfway. Rattata's medium faster, I think, is slower in the early game than medium slow. All I know is that Rattata is on whichever track is exactly x cubed as the experience thing. I don't remember which one it is, but that is the one we're on. We should get. Let's go over to the one to the right. Fastest is fluctuating, which was added later. Yes, yeah. Because it's not. It's it wobbles a bit. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes slower, but overall it is the fastest one to get there. Let's go to this one. We never come over here. A lot of the slower growth patterns are actually faster at lower levels. Yes, yeah. They almost have kind of a like logarithmic growth pattern. I want to get to, at the very least, we definitely got to get to level 29 because I want to see that second row of Raticates get started. Oh yeah, so those Raticates are every time Strats tries to evolve, and we tell them no. I actually don't know for a fact whether Strats is male or female. I don't know if Rattata is a 50-50 species or a like a 7-to-1 or a 3-to-1 species. Oh, hey, we crossed 8 hours. Hell yeah. I keep going down for quick attack. Is it halves? Okay. So yeah, like any guess is just as likely. So I guess we'll have to see at the end whether Strats is male or female. Because in the end of this, how am I going to do this? That's the real question. Because there's ways to. I guess what I'd probably wind up doing is putting it into. Oh yeah, no, I could load it up in PK Hex. PK Hex will be able to at least detect that much. I may have to try to essentially try to transfer it internally to a later gen, or even just Gen 2, just to determine it, but I thought I remembered because I needed to look at Strats' stats in the very first stream so that I could find its IVs, I think, so that I could get the math right on the stats that are going on the top left there, like the attack, defense, speed, and special, because those are not coming from the game exactly. Those are coming from a formula that I built that replicates how it determines what those stats are, but I still need the base IVs for it to make that calculation. There are 4 unused growth rates, 2 of which were removed in Gen 3, and the other 2 are identical to medium fast. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, sorry, yeah, well, yeah, DVs, and then the EVs are called, battle experience, I think. Functionally almost the same. Very, very close. There are differences, but they're in terms of how they operate, they're basically IVs and EVs. I want to say the difference has more to do with scale for DVs and IVs than anything. And it's also like how, like what they're actually pulling from those numbers. Because that also leans into like how they determine shinies and how that changes over time. Sorry, stat experience. Yeah, not battle experience. Because the stat experience... so EVs nowadays... The idea, if I recall correctly, is that every Pokemon has essentially an EV that they give when they're defeated. Like, it's like, oh, 3 HP EV or 2 defense EVs or something. Whereas I think for stat experience, the idea is when you defeat a Pokemon, your stat experience goes up by the same number as all of your opponent Pokemon's stats. So, like, you literally... It might be base stats, but, like... it was like, oh, whatever their attack stat is, you get that to your stat experience, and etc. Yeah, you take these Pokemon's base stats and add them to your Pokemon stat experience. Yeah, exactly. Now you get 1 to 3 EVs in 1 to 3 different stats, usually the mon's highest stats for each KO. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's go up a little bit more. Oh, good. The food has arrived. Fantastic. Alright. Probably go grab that in a second. Let's at least get to level 29 first. Should be about, I don't know, 5 battles. Alright. Girl, I'm gonna eat that level 3 Rattata. Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be very interesting once we actually. I mean, it's forever away, but when we actually reach the point where that we're released from Route 1, it'll be nuts. That's the randomizer right there. Is we get in here and you have to, oh, your check happens when a Pokemon reaches level 100, but you can't actually get into Pewter City or the Viridian City until then because someone's in your way. Where could that check be? All right. I'm so bummed. We did Rock Band as part of the anniversary stream, and apparently I strained my voice far too early into it because by the time it came around to, like, by the time I started doing some of the singing, my voice was already pretty beat, which bummed me out a little bit because I was actually pretty excited about getting in there with that, but perhaps another time. Actually, just read the formula today for, speaking of Word RPG stats, the way the Persona series handles the bonus stats you get from Fusion. Ooh, okay. Are you talking like the ones that are boosted by your social links? Or do you mean like... Oh, I guess from Fusion it would have to be that, yeah. I was also thinking like the bonus cards or whatever, how those work, but... The stats of the fused Persona, yeah. Oh, gotcha. I assumed that there was just a base set of stats, and then went from there. There we go. Level 29. Nope. No evolution. Alright, I am going to go and grab that from outside real quick, which means all of our numbers are going to drop, but that's okay. I'll be right back. They substituted my chocolate Frosty for a vanilla Frosty, and now I'm sad. Tries to max out the stats of your new persona, and then puts limits on the stat growth based on things like level, but also seemingly random things like the internal ID number of the old personas, how long you had them, which stats. Whoa, okay. So there's a lot that's actually going on there. That's interesting. Oh no, a critical hit. Oh my god, there's so much adhesive on this fucking shit. Jesus. They did a thing where they wrapped the bag and they wrapped a spoon and a straw in it, and then they did the little sticker thing, but they ran the sticker over the spoon and the straw. Why did you do this? Okay, there's that. Okay. Very complex system, considering 90% of circumstances gives you 1 point agility. Oh, God. Ugh. Stupid-ass spoon. Is that later? Okay, there we go. I'm going to enjoy some of my chicken nuggets. My spicy nugs. Also calls the random function 12 times. Oh, God. Great. That's what you need during Fusion, especially. Took Dragon Quest over 8 games to make magic damage scale with wisdom and intelligence. Really? Oh, my God. And SMT, Nocturne, and Luck is actually useless? Oh, that's embarrassing. Jeez. The only real Dragon Quest stat stuff that I am familiar with is Dragon Quest 1, which, there weren't really stats. There was growth patterns based off of a mod function of your name, and that was basically it. Excuse me, just enjoying a nugget. Feels like old-fashioned RPG devs were trying to make a tabletop RPG that couldn't be done without a computer. That is super accurate for some. Dragon Warrior, I think. The engine... Either Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy. I forget which. I think Dragon Warrior. The math they were doing was almost exactly Dungeons and Dragons. It was they were literally essentially doing stuff off of functional D20 type rolls, and I was like, whoa, okay. Might have been Final Fantasy 1. I'm trying to remember. Also, holy cow, Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy and broken spell mechanics. Name a better combo. Final Fantasy 1 having fucked up buggy spells, it makes enough sense. Hell, this very Pokemon game has buggy shit that they fucked up. Final Fantasy 6 having fucked up spells and things is wild to me. Very surprising that shit is fucked up. Alright. Hooray. My local river is flooded? What? That's not good. That happened once to the river by where I grew up, too. It's an interesting time. Womp, 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 womp. Okay. Final Fantasy VI literally calls M block for both evasion and magic protection. Evasion stat does nothing, and the blind status effect does nothing except stop Strago from learning lores. Jesus Christ. Kind of amazing, the level of, like, how did that even get that level of fucked up? Both bike paths to my nearest grocery store are blocked. I had to take the street. Must be April or something. Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Now, let's see. In order to get to level 35, which is not happening tonight, obviously, but do some quick math on that in a second. Actually, can I do that in my head? Because there's a few tricks that make that a little easier. It'd basically be, I think, 1575. 40 times 40 minus 25 is, I think, how that works out. 1575, yeah. Okay, cool. Why? No, sorry. What am I doing? I multiplied 35 by 45, and that was not the math I was trying to do. I was trying to do 35 cubed. 42,875. Okay. Which is 15,000 more than what it takes to get to level 30 overall. Because 30 is 27k. And 25 was 15k itself. Okay. So yeah, this will be basically the back over 50 XP per minute. Yes, hell yeah, we made up for burger time. We Burger Kinged ourselves with Wendy's. It was Wendy time. Wendy time is when you walk away from progress in order to get food, rather than when you can't make progress, you have to get food. Wendy time might have to be the name of this one now. I don't know. There might be some competitors in there, but I feel like Wendy time is going to be up there now. But yeah, I was just like curious. I'm like, all right, so because this one, it's going to be a little on the short-ish side of a stream. It's actually not going to be that short in the grand scheme of things, but we're going to get it from 25 to 30 is when you fight the girl Koopa. Yeah, that's fair. That's Wendy-O time. But so 15,000 divided by our 50 experience per minute means we could get to level 35 in the next stream, but it would take a 5-hour stream to do, which is definitely possible. If I'm able to start early enough, we could do a 5-hour stream, and if I'm not exhausted too. I'm like making up for the fact that I could pass out at any moment by just talking through it. If I ever stop talking, I'm just going to pass out. So that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, I think so. If we start the next stream early enough, then we may be able to get to 35. But then after that, that is for sure the last time we're getting 5 levels in one stream. I feel like for a while, RPG devs just couldn't make spell damage work well for some reason. In PSO, magic damage falls way off in late game because, unlike physical defense, magic resistance is percentage-based. Okay. And for no good reason at all, in Nocturne, spells have a level limit, which, once the user exceeds, causes their damage to decrease. That feels like they just fucked up the math there. Like they were doing, okay, we're going to base this off, 30 minus the level to a certain power times this divided by that, and they forgot the fact that means that once your level gets above a certain point, that it's not just diminishing returns, it's just full-on diminishing damage. Still best to use physical builds in SMT because they nerf elemental attacks and they don't have the highest tier of skills. That's fair enough. Are we suggesting that holds true for Persona as well? Or just Shin Megami Tensei. Okay, gotcha. Persona is... So, trying to remember if I got this right. Persona is part of the Megaten, like, meta franchise, but it's not part of Shin Megami Tensei, right? Because SMT is its own, like, proper, like, series of games as opposed to the broader Megaten franchise. Yeah, okay. Just making sure that I had that straight in my head. Is SMT If considered a Persona game at all? Or is it just, you know, similar, but that's it? Yeah, Persona is one of 5 series within Megaten. Jesus. I think only one other series out of Megaten was one that I'd heard of before, other than SMT and Persona. I don't remember which one right now because my brain is off, but... And then you get little, like, spin-offy things like Jack Bros. Oh, these chicken nuggets are hitting the spot right now. Oh, yeah, Devil Summoner. I think one of those two, maybe I was putting the two together in my head, but one of either Devil Summoner or Digital Devil Saga was one I'd heard of before. Last Bible. SMT If is a prequel technically, and it is canon in both timelines for weird retcon reasons following the PSP remake of Persona 1 and the iPhone release of SMT If. Oh my god, okay. That's... Okay. That's fascinating. I'm very curious if Persona 1 or 2 will ever get a remake. I know there's been murmurs about it. I know that they'd have to, like, rework a lot about all 3 of those games to make them work, but still. What would you say is the main difference between an SMT game and a Persona game? What little I've seen of SMT makes it seem like the Shin Megami Tensei are a little bit more, like, properly fantasy oriented, but I don't really know much about it. Oh, okay. All right. All right. By OG trilogy, do you mean 1, 2, and 2? Like Innocent Sin and... Oh, no, I forgot the other one right now. It's got an E. Nope, my brain's not on. Especially the older ones are just dungeon crawlers. Yeah, I was going to say, from what little we got of Persona 1... seemed to focus Eternal Punishment. Thank you. It definitely felt like there was an awful lot of like faceball type dungeon crawling. Yeah, honestly, even if they just put out 1, 2, and 2. Hell, you could put If on there as well for the hell of it. Just make it like a $30 thing on various storefronts. SMT, it's actual demons, not just personas in the unconscious, who generally have one human guy and a party of demons. Okay, alright. Gotcha. One of these days, I also have to play Parasite Eve so I can finally release my memory of that from my brain for good. I know, a huge tangent from Megaten discussion, but it just reminded me of that. It's almost always literally the end of the world during the game. Okay. All right. Which, I guess as far as the Persona games go, that is the case in Persona 3, but not in Persona 4. At least not directly, anyway. Persona 1 and 2 IP. You mean IS or EP? Are technically non-canon to the rest of the Persona series, and like 90% of players do not know that because Atlus refuses to release them. Yeah, because, I'm a little bit aware of... I don't know the specifics, but I definitely wound up reading a little bit at one point about, like, the ending of the first Persona 2 either doing some kind of time weirdness or you know, something or other that means that stuff is reverted and the other two happens instead or something. Yeah, the two P2s are alternate timelines of each other, and P3 follows from the second one. Yeah, that I did know, that it was like, okay, so Persona 2 forward is all a consistent timeline. So I guess if 1 and 2-1 are part of a timeline as well, then. One of these days, I'll just have to knuckle down and get through whichever ones of those I can. Realistically, I will probably wind up doing Persona 5 before I do that, just so that I am fully caught up on the new ones. Because, you know, whenever they actually announce a Persona 6, I would want to be sure that I could actually get through 5 in time for it, but you be careful on Persona 2 IS in particular. The main thing got spoiled for me is because there's literally a music track called Blank Dies. Oh, Jesus. Holy cow. Yeah, I usually don't look around for much of that stuff, and, like, the good news is, even though I sometimes produce, but even though I have produced Persona content, I don't watch Persona videos. So I think the algorithm doesn't recommend any Persona stuff to me because as a viewer, I don't look at it. But yeah, that doesn't help if you actually are, you know, looking at Persona material. Yeah, it's honestly that the Dragon Ball Z stuff reminded me there are like 3 good Persona YouTubers and one of them's a chud. Oh no. That's not a nice thing to call me. No, I kid. I am certainly not what I would consider a Persona YouTuber. No real YouTube presence. Oh, like just someone who's just kind of like a lump or. No, like the series says, oh, I see what you mean. It's kind of surprising, because especially with Persona 5, like having kind of, I don't know, breathed some life into the series on Western shores, you would expect there to be more of it around. I guess it doesn't help that so many of the games are like so hard to actually get a hold of in a way that makes for good, like, YouTubeable content. And they're slowly rectifying that, but it's been so long between games that all YouTubers eventually migrate to SMT. That's also very fair. Because, like, Persona 5 was, like, what, 7 years ago now? Something like that? It's been... Because Persona 5 was pre-pandemic? I think... 10 in Japan, 9 in the West. Jeez, oh my god. I almost said 10 years, and I was like, that can't be right. Fucking hell. Although, come to think of it now, I think we're at a point where... Yeah, because I was like, wait, but... Sarah played Persona 5 and we were living together at that point. It's like, right, this, like 10 years ago right now was when we just started living together. Royal was 2020. Okay. Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of then. Like I thought there was one that was like right before the pandemic, but that's probably what came to mind. Okay. Yeah, it's. I've talked about this stuff plenty. I don't want to like dig into it too much because it's old hat, but man, it is really depressing. Wear the Mask 331 2020. Oh my god. Yeah, boy oh boy, that's fucking prescient. Jesus. I feel like I'd be less depressed about the state of video games right now if I didn't live through the 90s and the 2000s. But having lived through those, it's really depressing to see what the state of video games is right now. And like, not to go 100% gloom and doom, there's great stuff in the indie scene, and the AA, AAA games that do come out are generally still pretty good. But the real thing is just like dev times are just fucking endless at this point. I'm tired of games taking. I'm tired of franchises that get one game per console generation. That really bums me out. As someone who grew up with, in fairness, too many games per console occasionally. Like Mega Man put out 6 core titles on the NES. 10 core titles, depending on how you count them, on the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, exactly. 1 through 6 with multiple versions for Battle Network, and 1 through 4 for Zero. But like, even that aside, it really bums me out when it's like, oh, we got lucky that for the Switch 1 that we got Breath of the Wild early on the Switch and Tears of the Kingdom late on the Switch. I guess that's true, yeah. The Game Boy Advance came out alongside the GameCube in 2001, and then 2006, I think, was the DS, right? So, basically right alongside the Wii. Man, like, last real game in 2006. Okay, But yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I've done my math stuff before. The time between the initial reveal and announcement of Final Fantasy VII Remake and the release date of the final game of the trilogy is probably going to be in the ballpark of like 13 to 15 years. All for what is ostensibly a big giant remake of one game. And if it gets delayed at all, which, speaking as a fellow delayer myself, Tetsuya Nomura is horrendous with this stuff. If it gets delayed at all, the reveal of Final Fantasy VII Remake may wind up being closer to the release date of the original Final Fantasy VII than it is to the final release of the remake. Like, this shit is crazy. Like, this, just as something that, like, so for me, Final Fantasy VII Remake got announced when I was 28. So, like, I was already, like, out in the adult world and all of that stuff at the time. But if you're someone who is, like, a high school kid who's, like, kind of into retro games, and you played Final Fantasy VII, and that's cool, and while you're in high school and they announce, oh my god, they're remaking this, that's cool. If you were that person, you're in your late 20s now. You might have kids now, like, and they're still not done with it. And it's like, holy shit, man. I'm not saying you have to rush these games, but like, it's hard to stay passionate about some of this stuff sometimes when it's like, oh, cool. Mega Man is going, like, there's, at the end of the day, we're going to wind up with a 15-year period where there was one Mega Man game that really came out. Between 2011 and 2026, the only real Mega Man release being Mega Man 11 square in the middle of it is like, fuck, man. So Mario Odyssey is closer to the release of 3D Land than today? Oh my god. Ugh. And like, meanwhile, all these fucking studios are just slashing their personnel left and right. It's like, man, you're real happy when your kid can play the same game you played growing up. Badoop. And then you can wait together for them to finish the game. You're gonna be real happy when Mega Man Legends 3 gets announced. Oh my god, yeah. Holy cow. Because that's one that... Because we're basically... Actually, we're right around 15 years to the day from when that got canceled. I think we're almost there. I think it's coming later this month. Because I distinctly remember that my plan back when the D-Pad was a podcast in 2011 was that one of our earliest episodes was going to cover Mega Man Legends 3, and then the day that the prototype was supposed to drop on the eShop, it wasn't showing up in the eShop, so I went looking and it turned out that they canceled it entirely, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? The length of time between Halo Infinite and today is the same as the entire original trilogy. Jeez. And, like, not to say that, like, every franchise necessarily needs to pump out games forever, but I don't know. It just, like, it bums me out when it's, like, I was very used to the period of time where, like, there was a new Zelda game every, like, I don't know, 2-ish years. And, like, the Zelda franchise is getting, like, a Zelda release every maybe 2 years. But, like, I guess Zelda's maybe not a great example, because we got Tears of the Kingdom, we got Echoes of Wisdom, we got Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment. So, like, we're doing okay right now on that front. So, bad example. That's a bad one. But I would definitely say that, like, Mega Man is, like, my example of, for seemingly no reason at all, the series just got kind of fully abandoned. And then they made a game that became the best-selling entry in the series, and then they just abandoned it again. It's like, what are we doing? Hell, here's a better example. Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, it's starting to recover now, but there was a point in time for like a decade where they just kind of didn't put out games, and they only released anniversary titles, essentially. I'm trying to remember what because they did the Sonic Boom trilogy, and then I think the next real release that Sonic got was Sonic Mania in 2017. We got Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and Team Sonic Racing, and then they basically went away again until Sonic Forces, or not Sonic Forces, until Sonic Frontiers in, what was that, 2022? Colors was before. Colors was 2011, I believe. Or very near there. Boom was like 2013, 2015, somewhere in that ballpark. I think the last one might have been 2016. But yeah, we hit a point where all of a sudden they just weren't making games unless it was for an anniversary, and it was like, whoa, okay. And, like, to a certain extent, there's a part of me that wonders if we're still feeling a little bit of the effects of, like, COVID delays. Like, it's finally starting to iron out a little bit more. But just, I don't know. It makes me sad. Because, like, even as I'm sitting here doing this game that is, you know, 30 years old now, I don't want to live in Retroland forever. But when the stuff that is coming out, quote-unquote, now is so slow to come out, it's kind of hard not to a certain extent. I don't know. It's tough because it's like it's a complex sort of subject, and there's a lot of nuance to it, and like it's easy to take that thought and be like, oh, well, the devs should just work harder, they should work more hours or whatever, which like that's not fair. Like, but I don't know what the solution is. Other than that not every game needs to be a fucking 150-hour experience. I think that's the biggest lesson of all that studios need to learn is not every game needs to be a life-alteringly long experience. And honestly, great example of that is Clair Obscur, which like you can get through that game in like 30 hours if you're you know focused on it, and more like 60 if you want to take your time. Much more reasonable, and for an RPG at that rate too, here in 2026 or 2025 when it came out. Minecraft is still receiving updates. The line between classic Minecraft and modern Minecraft is generally agreed to be like February 2012, less than 3 years before the game started development. Jesus, what? Wait, what? But yeah, that's kind of a confused. Oh, okay. I was like, wait, how does that work? But yeah, that's very interesting that it's like you've got your. If anything, it's funny that I guess classic makes sense versus just like standard, I guess, because modern doesn't feel right if modern is almost 15 years old itself. But I guess we kind of say that about Sonic also, and modern Sonic is approaching 30 years old. Classic Sonic is essentially the 90s, and modern Sonic is 1999 forward. Although modern Sonic is also kind of a complicated thing because it's like core series 1999 forward, because the Boom Sonic is separate, and then all the various alternate takes on Sonic like Prime are all also different. But was that the adventure mode update, the one that added the updated attack time? Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe, right? Be an interesting way to tie that all together. Open this fucking thing. Classic refers to an actual development phase of Minecraft before the game went public. Fans of early Minecraft call it Golden Age, consider it to end in 1.3.1, which had like no features but was really buggy because they merged the single player and multiplayer in the back end. Ooh, ugh. That seems like a strange mistake to make. I was trying to release my Frosty a little bit. Good change nowadays. Made the game run poorly for like 5 years. Oh, God. Great. Yeah, it seems like 50 and a quarter is about as high as we're going to get our average experience here. It may slowly increase more over time, but that does feel like that's about where that's going to end up. Tackle, tackle, tackle. All right, we got about like 30 more battles before we hit level 30, and then we'll call it from there. I was debating a few points. I was like, maybe when we hit 50 experience per minute, maybe when we hit 1,000 battles. But no, I think level 30 will be the right place for this. And then when we come back for this next time, which should be on the 20th, it'll depend how early we start. Like, if we start like in the ballpark of 8 to 9, then I think we can get to level 35 that stream. If we start any later than that, though, I don't think we'll be doing that. Because I don't want to be up till like 3 in the morning on work nights and stuff, but... Here we go. I am excited to play Persona 5 at some point, though. Just kind of back up the conversation a little bit. I'm curious to see what all the hubbub is about. I liked both 3 and 4. 4, I don't know which one I liked better between 3 and 4. It's really hard for me to compare them just because they were so different of an experience from each other. I think I might have liked 4 a tiny bit better. I don't know. It's like it's been so long between 3 and 4 though, so like I probably need to play 3 like again or more or something to get it fresh in my brain. I played through Persona 5 last year just after you went through 4 so that I could actually know what was going on in advance. Fair enough. Nice. One thing that is pretty nice for 4 is that it didn't leave me with a bit of lingering existential dread and depression after I was done with it. I don't know if I ever talked about this before, but... So I think I was playing Persona 3 in the ballpark of 2019, maybe 2018. I definitely was going through some kind of depressive stint between 2018 and 2019 because, among other things... Oh yes, I'd heard about that. Yes, that there's an older Nanako and they're in like ski gear or something like that. But yeah, there was some like depressive stint that I had in like 2018, 2019, and it wasn't because of this, but it definitely was like it resulted in me noticing. No, they're skiing anywhere they get. Yeah, very odd. It resulted in me noticing just how much media I happened to be consuming, not by choice. This was just a thing that it was a trend in media at the time that I had been noticing, was that a lot of the movies and TV shows and video games that I wound up playing all had a certain element of like finality to them. And sometimes the finality was just, oh, this is the end of a story, which was nice, but it left me feeling a little sad because it meant that it was over to a certain extent, like Endgame, for example. Infinity War and Endgame. Big epic conclusion to that era of the MCU, and then it was over, and it was kind of like, wow. All right, well, that was a decade of really following all this stuff, and now that's kind of over, so that's interesting. But then you get to Persona 3, and it's like, oh, here's a game that's literally, ultimately about the end of the world. And not only, and like, you stop it, which is great, unless you don't, which is also sad. But when you, the way by which you stop it results in a sacrifice that is drawn out in such a depressing and sad sort of way. And like, maybe it's meant to be more sweet and optimistic in the way that it lays that out, but the specifics of it really like burrowed under my skin a little bit after that. Between like the conversations and the fact that your character was like kind of emotionally distant after the battle and stuff, and just seemed to like, it was sort of like he was becoming numb to everything going on around. Japanese PS2 version of Persona 4 contains the entire soundtrack for 3 on the disc, although the files are corrupted. That's interesting. Probably means that it just happened to be in a sector that was getting overwritten last and just like almost escaped but didn't. It's fascinating though. But yeah, I don't know. There were just a lot of games and movies and things I was encountering at the time that had either a sense of finality or a sense of like just a general sense of like death, I guess. And I don't know. Fortunately, I was never in a spot where I was like dangerously depressed, I guess. Which, you know, I count myself as being very fortunate for. I've never really had that sort of a struggle, which is good. But it really, like, it kind of did the opposite of the scary kind of depression to me, where I became sort of quietly very, like, afraid and anxious, I guess. Like, to the point where there would be some nights I would have a hard time sleeping because my mind could not get past the notion that at some point, hopefully decades from now, at some point, like, I will be dead. Like, that's just a fact of existence. Somewhere down the line, that's going to happen. And it was a thing that bothered me. And then my mind, because it's me in the middle of the night, Sarah's asleep next to me, and my brain just won't shut up. And so thinking about that, or like, oh my God, what would that do to Sarah? Oh my God, wait, what if Sarah died? What would I do then? Oh my God, what would I? And I'm just like, and it was this awful, just like emotional kind of spiral on that stuff, and it just was really not good. Yeah, a lot of people do that, and for some of them, it works great. Like, in terms of, you know, some people want to have kids for like 100 million different reasons, and they raise them great. And then some people definitely have kids because they have like a midlife crisis type mental thing on like, I must produce offspring so I have a legacy, or I must produce offspring so I have something to do when I'm 45, or whatever. Like, everybody's got their own reasons, and I'm certainly not going to judge on that because I'm someone who does not have kids, and I'm not planning on having kids. There was a point where I wanted to have kids. But, you know, the longer time's gone on, the more I've been like, I don't think I would have been I think I make a great uncle. I don't think I make a very good dad. But like, yeah, I would just have like those kinds of nights, and sometimes I still have like random depressed nights. I kind of refer to them as like bad brain days or bad brain nights, but, nothing even close to that. Like, those were really like messing with me. And then I would go play a game where the end of the world is happening, and I would go watch a movie where half of the universe dies and stuff, and it would be like, Jesus Christ, I can't avoid it. I'm trying to remember some of the other games and things that were going on at the time that had similar stuff, but I was just like, fuck. It's really, really rough. But like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to... I don't know. I guess by virtue of me not having kids and not trying to or wanting to or any of that, I can't even like say, you know, oh, I wouldn't want to have like, I don't know. I guess that's where that thought kind of ends, is I don't know. But yeah, some people have kids specifically because they, you know, it's either a distraction from thoughts like those, or it's meant to be like, no, okay, if I'm worried about like the fact that this will end, then this means here's something that I will, yeah, it's a legacy. It's something that will live on after me, kind of thing. And to like some sort of extent, I kind of view the D-pad as that a little bit. God knows if YouTube will still be around by the time I'm dead, but like, I don't know. I would like to think that if I hang on to my library of hard drives with all of our exports on them, then if something ever came around to replace YouTube, I could put them up there too, or something. But I don't know. It's something that, you know, can be, you know, remembered by after the fact, that sort of thing. But it's a complicated thing to even think about in that kind of term, in those kinds of terms, because it still just kind of gets you into that, like, it's weird to think about what will come after you're gone, while also remembering, like, okay, but I'll be gone, so it's not like I'm going to be around to be bummed out about my legacy if it's not the way that I imagined it. Like, the idea is you kind of cast your dice and you hope for the best. Like, that's just sort of how that works. Imagine the really annoying month you would have moving your video content when Google replaced the YouTube with an AI chatbot. Oh, it would be so much more than a month. So much more than a month. Holy cow. Let's see. So, I'm trying to remember. Even if it's just 1-to-1, like video length to how long it takes to upload. We have so much content on the D-pad that even if you were to watch all of our stuff from end to end, I'm fairly certain that is more than a year's worth of content. Just end to end, all of it. It would take years for me to upload everything. I don't even know how I would begin. Like, genuinely, if all of a sudden it was like, oh, YouTube's going down, one, I would make a point of being like, ooh, I gotta preserve as much stuff as I can. Like, download anything that I'm missing or anything that is from the early days where I don't have a copy anymore or whatever. And then I don't know, like, do I start by releasing stuff from 2011 and kind of walk it forward as best I can? Do I do it in by series? Like, do I go, okay, we're actively doing Sonic games still. Like, oh, we're in 2015 era Sonic or whatever, so let's focus on Sonic games because that's active, and we'll do Zelda when that's caught up because we're not doing Zelda anymore or something. Like, I don't even know. I have no idea how I'd even approach that. Death isn't worth worrying about because you'll be... Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? Like, it's so funny. Like, there's a certain level of humor to worrying about death sometimes, and I think it's that this is probably kind of the key to how folks, especially folks who are a little bit older, kind of get past some of those thoughts, is like, you do eventually kind of come to the conclusion of like, okay, so I won't be around anymore, and like, I hope that stuff is you know, I hope that I leave things better than I found them, and I hope that, you know, memories of me live on beyond myself and yada yada. And that's all well and good, but also, I'll be dead, so it's not really like I'll be around to give a shit about it, right? Like, and that's kind of funny in its own stupid-ass way. That, like, the worrying about it is kind of silly because it's going to happen, and you don't really get a say in what happens after that, obviously, other than, like, a will, but that's not really how that works. So, like, I don't know. It's better to enjoy what you've got while you're kicking around and enjoying it than to worry about the stuff that's going to happen after you're not around to be able to affect it anyway. Man, this really was a weird fucking stream, huh? Jesus. We've gone down some roads tonight. No, you're not. Putting world peace in my will so people are legally obligated to use everything I own to try to achieve world peace. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. It's so weird. Over the course of the past, I guess, year or two, Sarah and I have had an occasional conversation about some of that stuff where so I don't think that, I mean, I don't have a will. At some point, I probably should make one sometime during my 40s, I guess. But I do have, like, life insurance, and so does Sarah. And and she had told me at one point, like a year or two ago, because she was getting my information because she was starting a new job, that, like, yeah, I am the beneficiary of her life insurance policy. And we actually joked about this very recently because, so in my life insurance policy, she is the prime beneficiary, but she's not the only beneficiary. I have a sister. She's got 5 kids. Like, I want to make sure that they're taken care of, too. So there is some split in there so that some of that goes that way as well, should anything happen while I'm, you know, working for this particular company anyway. I used to date a guy called Will, and he was a groundskeeper for a church. Oh, boy. Yeah, that is definitely a fitting name for sure. Oh man. Yeah, that's got to be such an interesting job, like in a positive way too, but like just a very interesting sort of profession. anything that does involve being kind of in the proximity of death in that sort of way. Nominative determinism, yes. Like having a dentist named Dr. Tooth. What a terrible example. Or like a florist named Rose. That's better. But yeah, like working as a groundskeeper in a graveyard, or a church that has a graveyard, or like working in a morgue or something like that. It does seem like a very it seems like one of those vocations where it's like you're gonna learn some things about yourself just by being here type stuff. Never date a fucking Anabaptist. Oh boy. Religiously obligated to be miserable. Most of them live like the Amish. Not worth it. Interesting. So I was raised Catholic, and I haven't been a practicing Catholic in, oh my god, like 25 years now, maybe more actually. Almost 30. Come to think of it. And oop. Uh-oh. Did I run out of space? Nope. What happened there? What the fuck? The Twitch just died.